Hey guys, tonight, let's start with something comfortingly uncomfortable. You've just married the daughter of a feudal lord. Congratulations. Now you'd better keep your head down, your shoes clean, and your opinions on agriculture well guarded. Because today we're going to explore the various, numerous, and completely arbitrary reasons why your medieval father-in-law would probably kill you. But before we start, take a deep breath. Dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And, of course, if you like this kind of story where death is slow, the details are mind-numbing, and the endings, well, they don't always exist. Don't subscribe to the channel. Well, they don't always exist. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Oh, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. It's always comforting to know that someone is snoozing in the same vibe as you, even if they're miles away. Now, let's loosen our belts, let our eyes be heavy, and dive into that enchanting world where the only thing more deadly than a sword was its lack of etiquette. You wake up in 1347. Yes, 1347, a year of plague, famine, and family politics. You're a young newlywed, probably called something like Gualter or Arnaldo, and today is your first breakfast as a son-in-law. You wake up on a straw mattress that creaks in protest at every movement, smelling of mold, old sweat, and maybe cheese. It's not your bed. It belongs to the tavern where you spent your wedding night. Yes, the love suite was shared with 3 chickens, a goat, and the bride's blind cousin who wasn't notified of the ceremony. You stretch cautiously. Your right shoulder doesn't move. That's what happens when you sleep with your head on a sack of potatoes. You try to smile, after all, you're meeting the father-in-law today. Your stomach turns over. It's not nerves, it's the pottage. That porridge of fermented barley and unnamed roots that you had for dinner yesterday. He's back. You stand up. Your right foot sinks into something damp. Left foot steps on a feather. You decide not to investigate. The tavern door creaks open. The sun hasn't even risen yet, but the floor is already alive with fleas. Today is the big day. The day you will be judged, not by a court, but by your father-in-law, Baron Roderico, a man who smells of smoke, shouts at trees, and has 3 swords, 1 for each type of betrayal, economic, moral, and just because. And all you have to do is not annoy him. But then you make your first mistake, and it all starts with the bread. You make the first mistake. The bread. You arrive at your father-in-law's house carrying an offering. After all, that's what you do. In your case, it's a loaf of bread. A loaf you tried to bake yourself with flour you bought with coins left over from the dowry. Or rather, left over from what wasn't immediately taxed by the church, the crown, the miller, and the bread seller who swore he wasn't charging too much. You humbly hand over the bread with both hands. Your father-in-law takes the bread. You examine it. He gives it a little tap. The sound is threatening, as if you'd hit a stone or the skull of a sinner. He looks at you with the same look that has already caused 3 maidservants to give birth prematurely. Rogerio, what exactly is in this? You smile. You say it's homemade. You used a touch of leek for flavor. Leeks. You dared to season. In his world, that's a sign of vanity, of disrespect for simplicity, of wanting to impress, which, ironically, is highly offensive. You try to shine. And your father-in-law likes sons-in-law who know how to go out. Mistake 2, your hands. At lunchtime, which happens at noon and lasts exactly as long as a monk singing a psalm out of tune, you sit down at the table, making another mistake, sitting down uninvited. The father-in-law looks on. You freeze. Then he tries to smooth things over by grabbing some meat with his hands. Because that's how everyone does it, right? Wrong. You're the only one with clean hands. Your nails are short. You have less than 3 visible warts. The father-in-law notices. He smells his palm. He notices no dirt, dried blood, or pork fat. He smiles. But it's that smile that appears before the execution. I see you have the hands of someone who has never caught a goose. You laugh. You try to joke. Only the paper ones. Silence. Total silence. Someone coughs. A dog snarls past. Death hangs in the air like steam in a cold soup. You try to joke. Worse, a modern joke. Mistake 3, you can read. After lunch, his father-in-law decides to test him. He hands over a document. Read it here, out loud. You hesitate, but you read on. Latin stuttered, but read. He widens his eyes. You, a commoner, read Latin. That's witchcraft. That's arrogance. That's potential heresy. Your father-in-law gets up. He goes to a trunk. He takes out a chain. It's not decorative, it's functional. And at that moment, you realize. In the Middle Ages, knowledge was not power. It's grounds for hanging. You realize that knowing too much is dangerous. The chain is in your father-in-law's hand. You swallow dry. Perhaps you even swallow a sliver of your own pride, which, like any good son-in-law, you should have left on the doorstep. But he doesn't put you in chains. Yet. Instead, he approaches you and asks, "Do you believe in the power of blood?" You don't know the right answer, because no answer is right. If you say yes, he might think you practice pagan rituals. If you say no, you're a heretic. You choose to cough. He shakes his head, a gesture that, curiously, in his family means this soul is already condemned. All that's left is the fire. Mistake 4, you try to help. In the middle of the afternoon, you notice that the gate to the pigsty has a loose hinge. Trying to be helpful, you run to your bag, grab a nail, one of the few you've forged yourself with your amateur blacksmith's kit, and fix it. 5 minutes later, his father-in-law appears, staring at the nail. Did you fix the gate? You smile proudly. Yes, it was loose. He doesn't smile back. She should be loose, so as not to trap the pig's spirit. You've sealed the cycle of sacred breath. You blink. What? He's already praying. He's already looking for herbs. He's already muttering curses. You are now the son-in-law who has unbalanced the spiritual flow of the pigsty. A title that carries with it 200 years of bad luck and probably a stake stuck somewhere uncomfortable. Error 5. You suggest improvements. After 3 hours of pretending not to exist, you approach in a humble way. Very humble, almost crawling. And you try to suggest something. Mr. Roderico, what if we put stones on the path to the stable? It would prevent slips. He looks at you as if you had suggested replacing Mass with a show of naked jugglers. Stones? On the sacred path of the earth? That land has been trodden for generations. Every footprint there is a memory. You want to erase them with stones? You consider saying it was just an idea. But then you remember the cousin who said it and became firewood for a bad winter. Mistake 6. You breathe too loudly. At dinner, tired, shivering, you sigh. Loud, long, innocent. But this is not a world where sighs are neutral. Your father-in-law stops eating. Everyone stops. He says, Was that a sound of boredom, of complaint, or lust? You try to explain that it was tiredness. He closes his eyes. You'd better, because if it was lust, and not for my daughter, I'd have to rip out her lung and hang it up as a warning to the others. You smile nervously. He doesn't smile back. Mistake 7. You praise the food. Yes, praise. An apparently harmless gesture. You eat a plate of something that tastes like clay cooked with bitter onions and, in an impulse of social survival, you say, "Very tasty, Mrs. Roderica." The Baron's wife smiles shyly. Not your father-in-law. He stands up slowly, leaning on the table with both hands. The wood creaks as if sensing tragedy. Did you find it tasty? You realize too late. The dish was in mourning, made without salt by tradition, in memory of the father-in-law's grandfather, who died 18 years ago, that same week. The salt symbolized forgetfulness, and the taste, betrayal. So, my father is spice to you? You try to say no, but it's too late. You've become gastronomic heresy. Mistake 8, you look him in the eye. During the after-dinner meal, that moment between digesting your fear and starting to pray for your soul, your father-in-law stares at you. You look back. It shouldn't. In the Middle Ages, looking directly at the Baron without him asking is as serious as spitting in the wafer. Even if it's your father-in-law. Especially if it's your father-in-law. He speaks. I see courage in your eyes. You think good. He adds, courage is dangerous. It leads men to the gallows. Mistake 9, you propose a toast. In a final attempt to appear friendly, you raise the chalice. A gesture of union, of celebration, of reconciliation. To the future of the family. But you forget. Today is a day of mourning. You had already offended food. Now you're offending drink. The father-in-law gives a slight nod to the page boy. The page boy leaves. You don't know if he went for the gallows, the priest, or just a shovel. Mistake 10. You don't die quickly. The next morning, after surviving all the layers of your father-in-law's informal trial, you wake up and think, maybe I got away with it. But then he finds a parchment on his bed, sealed with wax and written in the crooked handwriting of the local scribe. You open it. Read it. It's an execution order for excessive cordiality. His crime: he smiled at inappropriate times, tried to be kind, he made bread with leeks. His final judgment: to die for not knowing how to be invisible. Welcome to the Middle Ages, where being a son-in-law was a very high-risk profession, and every gesture was a possible death sentence. You try to appeal to the courts. Still in your pajamas, that is, the same dirty cloth you've been wearing since your wedding day. You run to the nearest authority. A judge, a priest, a counselor, Number the blacksmith. In the village, he writes the letters, seals the contracts, and occasionally judges those who have stolen turnips. You beg. Roderico wants to kill me because I was too polite. The blacksmith looks on. He scratches his nose with a tool that shouldn't be used like this. Too polite? Ah, serious crime. Clearly attempted bewitchment for sympathy. You blink. Is that real? He nods seriously. Of course. There was a guy who held the door for his mother-in-law once. He turned into a frog. And no ordinary toad. A polite frog. He greeted everyone with his paw. He was exercised with spoons. You try to run away. His plan is simple. Escape through the night. Run to the forest. Live among the monks or among the pigs, whichever comes first. You gather the basics. A piece of bread, no leaks, we learn. A canteen with something that smells like vinegar, and your lucky charm. A button that fell off your father-in-law's tunic and which, ironically, could be the reason for your demise. But the plan fails at the first step. You trip over your neighbor's rooster. The rooster cries out. The family dog answers. The father-in-law wakes up. And when he appears on the threshold, holding a lamp and a scythe, you understand. In the Middle Ages, you don't run away. You're picked off. You try to argue. You try logic. You talk about love, intentions, honesty. Mr. Roderico, I swear I just want to make your daughter happy. He replies, happiness? There's no such thing. There's only the field, and the obligations, and the rain that never comes. You try to cry. He respects tears. For 10 seconds. Then he points to the well. Do you know what cries the most? The bucket. And it still brings water. You accept. In front of the makeshift gallows, a crooked branch and a piece of rope that used to hold a cow, you raise your head. Mr. Roderico, is there anything I can do to redeem my existence? He thinks. He scratches his chin. Then he says, 3 tasks. If you fail one, you die. You agree. Better than dying from smiling too much. The 3 tasks. His father-in-law, now taking on the role of inquisitor, pulls an imaginary scroll out of his sleeve. Not literally, as sleeves in those days were more used to hide knives than lists, and starts dictating the tasks. First task. Bring me the bone of the late horse Delio. But not just any bone. The one that carries memory. The femur. You try to ask where the horse was buried. He just points to the swamp. You leave. You take a shovel, a candle, and your dignity in tatters. 3 hours later, dirty with mud, bitten by mosquitoes and perhaps spiritually haunted, you return with a bone that is probably a cow. But your father-in-law approves. He says it smells right, and he smiles. A smile that leaves more doubt than comfort. Second task. Spend the night in the stable and get out alive. Simple? Not quite. The stable houses it. A bull with a soft voice trauma, a cow that dreams big, and a crow that has learned to imitate human cries. You go in. Close the door. You pray, even if you don't know to whom. During the night, the crow cries, "Help!" 5 times. The bull tries to crush you with affection. The cow snores like a whining mill. You survive. You go to sleep sitting on a bucket. You wake up feeling like you've been visited by 3 saints and a talking goat. Your father-in-law watches you as you leave. He woke up, still with soul. Point for you. You don't know if he's disappointed or impressed. Both options seem lethal. Last task. Convince old Gisela to forgive you for not bringing the blessing of the wedding cheese. You blink. Excuse me? He nods. In our culture, every son-in-law brings Gisela a cheese. You didn't. She's hurt. You've never heard of it. But now you have to ask forgiveness from a 94-year-old deaf lady with 2 canes and a history of attacking visitors with a wooden spoon. You go to Gisela. She lives in a house that creaks more than the priest's broken cart. When you knock on the door, she's already waiting with the look of someone who has held a grudge since the Crusades. Where's my cheese? You kneel down. You explain. Promise to bring a whole one. Goats. Seasoned with nothing. Just the way she likes it. She looks, smells the air. Then she spits on the ground and says, "If it survives the winter, bring it." You're back. Alive. And his father-in-law just crosses his arms. That's right. It looks like you're not dead. You hope that's the end of it. But then he asks, do you know how to hunt wild boar? You feel it's far from over. You receive the mission to hunt a wild boar. You don't know how to hunt. You can barely run, but you say you can. Because in the Middle Ages, saying no to your father-in-law was like saying, let's settle this by torture. He hands over a spear, barbed, rusty, slightly crooked, and he smiles with the eyes of someone who expects his return only as part of a joke. Go into the woods. Bring a wild boar, alive, or at least with its head still warm. You set off, without a compass, without honor, with only 2 loaves of hard bread and the hope that the boar will have mercy. In the forest, everything creaks. Everything whistles. You slip, fall into a stream, are followed by a squirrel with judgment in its eyes. Hours pass. You find the wild boar. He's asleep, snoring like a drunken old man. You thank the gods, all of them, and also some trees. As he approaches, he opens one eye and runs, but not out of fear. Strategy. You run after it. You stumble. The spear flies. It hits a branch. The branch hits you. You wake up later with your head on your pride, and the boar watching you. Yes, he stayed. You say, please, just accompany me to the village. The boar doesn't answer, but it takes a step. You interpret it as yes, and so you come back, with the wild boar walking beside him, like a dog, or a suspended sentence. Your father-in-law is at the door. He sees the scene. You, dirty, bloody, without a spear, and the wild boar, serene. He raises his eyebrows. Have you tamed the bush demon? You smile, or try to. He spits sideways. There's something wrong with you. But for now, you survive. You get a new status. That night, you are no longer just the cursed son-in-law. You become the one who brought the bug. The new title is ambiguous, but less fatal. Your father-in-law, for once, isn't threatening to kill you. He just says, tomorrow, come with me to the field. We'll see if you can tell wheat from barley. He who makes a mistake gets caught. Thank you for the privilege of doubt. You go to the field. With the smell of wild boar still on your body and fear in your bones, you follow your father-in-law through the fields of the estate. He walks ahead with wide, silent strides, like a bear meditating on revenge. You try to keep up with him, occasionally tripping over stones, roots, and your own sense of inadequacy. Arriving at the plantation, he points to a group of golden ears of corn. What's that? You swallow. You remember the book you read while hiding in the convent. Take a chance. Wheat? He frowns. You complete it quickly. But it could be barley, or rye, or corn. No, not corn. Silence. He walks around the cob like an inquisitor around a heretic. Finally, he says, you got it right, by luck, or instinct. Both accepted. You sigh. He continues the test. He shows straw, grains, stalks. Everything needs to be named, classified, and occasionally smelled. You only make one mistake. He confuses fertilizer with stale bread. He doesn't laugh. He just makes mental notes. That will be remembered. You receive a new function. On the way back from the field, he announces, go look after the hen house. Sounds easy. It seems harmless. But in the Middle Ages, chickens were demonic creatures. They scream without warning. They fly aimlessly. They defecate in mysterious hieroglyphics. You enter. 3 are already on your shoulder. 1 pecks your ear. You step back. They move forward. And in the corner, there she is, the black chicken, called Gertrude, father-in-law's favorite, the one who, they say, sees the soul. She stares at you. You stare back. Error. It flies straight into your face. As he leaves the hen house, covered in feathers, scratches, and pure fear, his father-in-law simply comments, "Gertrude doesn't usually attack those who mean well. Interesting." You start to be tolerated. At the end of the day, after surviving the field, the chicken coop, and your own incompetence, you find yourself sitting at the table. Your father-in-law pours some beer into your glass, with their own hands. He's not dead yet. That's good. It's the highest compliment you can receive. You drink, bitter, hot, with a taste of partial approval. And for a brief moment, you feel that maybe you can survive the winter. You start to gain respect, which is dangerous. The next morning, you're called by name. No more the boy, the guy, or the problem with legs. Your father-in-law says, "Rogerio, come with me to the village." You tremble, but you obey. Along the way, he talks about taxes, the harvest, a possible arranged marriage between his niece and a miller with only 2 teeth. A breakthrough, according to him. You just agree. Always, with everything. He then comments, "I heard that you fixed the mill wheel with a piece of rope and a piece of bone. Is that witchcraft?" You smile. "No, I'm just desperate." He doesn't laugh, but he doesn't threaten you either. You are officially in the observation phase. You're tested in public. At the fair, your father-in-law meets a wine seller. He points at you. "This is the new son-in-law. Say something useful, boy." You didn't expect that. His mind spins. You say, "Too much rain drowns the wheat, but silence drowns the home." The salesman frowns. Your father-in-law shakes his head, slightly. Poetic. Useless, but poetic. You're not praised, but you're not excommunicated either. In the Middle Ages, that was a victory. You are invited to hunt again. This time, it's not wild boar, it's deer. With other men from the village, men who sweat testosterone and lung coughs. They don't like you. They think you're too smooth. You try to blend in. You carry arrows, compliment beards. You laugh at jokes involving sheep. During the hunt, you get lost. Again. I fell into a hole. Again. He's found by an old man who lives in the woods and talks to stones. He gives you some tea. You drink it. Go to sleep. You wake up singing in Latin. When you returned hours later, everyone thought you were dead. Your father-in-law looks on. Is he dead? You answer, I don't think so, but maybe he met Saint Bartholomew. He laughs, for the first time, a laugh that lasts 3 seconds, but it echoes for hours. You start to be accepted. That night, he doesn't talk about punishments, nor tasks, just say it. You're strange, but tough. And in the Middle Ages, resistance is almost love. You are promoted to potential non-enemy. The next morning, you wake up before the rooster, not out of discipline, out of habit. Fear leaves deep scars on your sleep. You chop wood, bring water. You give corn to the chickens, including the dreaded Gertrude, who this time just ignores you, which is undoubtedly a blessing. His father-in-law watches from afar. He crosses his arms. I didn't think it would last more than a moon cycle, and here you are, still in one piece. You expect a compliment, a threat, a butt. He just keeps sharpening his scythe, singing, in Latin, slightly out of tune. You're involved in local politics. In a surprising move, or possibly a trap, his father-in-law takes him to a meeting of the village council. A gathering of grumpy, bearded men who argue about missing cows, property boundaries, and whether the church bell should be polished or cursed. You remain silent. mental notes, until one of them asks, "And you, stranger, what do you think?" Everyone looks, even your father-in-law. You breathe, slowly, and he replies, "The border of the countryside is the river, yes." But respect begins where the cry ends. Silence, then a murmur. "You talk pretty, son-in-law." Another comments, "You should be a scribe." Your father-in-law just says, "He talks a lot, but he has strong arms." It's almost a compliment. Almost. You are spared. That night, for dinner, they serve real meat, cooked, with something that looks like seasoning. Your father-in-law toasts with you. Just once. At least you didn't die trying. You raise your glass. It shakes a little. You don't know if it's emotion or the onset of a common medieval fever. Anyway, you survived. For today. You make the mistake of asking about the past. It was supposed to be an ordinary afternoon. You were helping to repair the fence with makeshift wire made from horsehair and promises. Then, in a moment of naivety, you tried to strike up a conversation. "Mr. Roderico, can I ask you something?" He raises his eyes. Silence, always a bad sign. "What happened to your father? The previous baron?" You didn't know. But touching his past is like touching a wound. Old, healed, and armed with stakes. He answers in a whisper. "My father was killed by a son-in-law. His first, my sister's. He tried to renovate the chapel. He died by hanging with his own intentions." You don't answer. You don't even breathe. He adds, "Don't touch what's old. Not on walls, not on stories." You write it down in your head with capital letters and restrained tears. You dare to sing. During an afternoon's work in the stable, you, perhaps overwhelmed by the slight warmth of the sun and the near peace of not being watched, begin to hum. A soft, innocent melody. An ancestral song learned from your mother. Error. His father-in-law listens. He appears from behind a cart like a judgmental apparition. Is that a northern corner? You shake your head. I don't know. It just came. He comes closer. You try to say it was an accident, that the body needed it. He says, the body only needs 3 things: bread, purpose, and fear. What do you want? Comfort? You don't answer. Because it is. You want to. But the Middle Ages didn't deliver comfort. It only delivers ropes, fungus, and judgments. You ring the bell. You thought it was beautiful. An ancient bell hanging from a dead tree. A seemingly forgotten artifact. You played it once. Just once. The sound echoed like a warning. A call. A mistake. His father-in-law showed up in less than 2 minutes, with a hood, and a look that belonged to another century. This bell was rung for the last time before the Saxon invasion. Each stroke summons spirits we've forgotten how to silence. You promise never to touch anything again. No bell, no spoon, not even in their own self-esteem. You try to play with a child. One of your wife's little nieces approaches. In an innocent gesture, you grimace. She laughs. You pretend to be a wolf. She runs away, screaming. It seems like a light moment, but not for the father-in-law. He appears in the doorway, his eyebrows arched, and his hand on the handle of his ceremonial axe. Did you scare a child? You try to explain that it was a joke. He retorts, play is the gateway to chaos, and children are like hot bread. If they fall on the floor, they're no good anymore. You don't understand, but you nod, and avoid any children in the coming months, even yours if they come. You try to organize the pantry. His wife comments discreetly that the pantry is a mess. mixed grains, moldy roots, a chicken that refuses to come out of a sack of flour. You, eager to be useful, decide to reorganize. When he's finished, he feels proud. Everything in jars, each thing labeled with charcoal. She even separated the beans by color. Your father-in-law enters. Look, close your eyes. You've taken food out of the order of moods. Now barley thinks it's rye. This will affect the dreams of whoever eats it. You don't know if this is literal or metaphorical, but you apologize and start unpacking. The chicken, of course, goes back into the flour sack, as if nothing had happened. You find a coin. On the way to the well, you see an old coin covered in clay. You pick it up, clean it. You show it to your father-in-law like someone sharing an archaeological find. He looks. Then he says, "That coin was buried as an offering. Now that you've touched it, the offering is broken, and you have become the new payment." You try to laugh. He doesn't. "Are you kidding?" He replies, "It depends on the spirit that comes to charge." You improvise a song. During the harvest, the men in the fields sing rhythmically to keep pace. You, trying to blend in, improvise a verse. Wheat grows, the reaper cuts it, an angry father-in-law can never stand it. Laughs. One or two. But the father-in-law listens. "Did you turn me into a rhyme?" You try to deny it. He raises his scythe and points at the field. "Go reap until you rhyme again, only this time with sweat." You mow until sunset. It doesn't rhyme anymore, not even in thought. You laugh to yourself. In the evening, sitting by the fire, you remember something, a moment from the past, perhaps a cousin falling into a bucket, and you laugh. Shorty, your father-in-law emerges from the shadows. "Why did you laugh?" You explain. He asks, "Do you still think about the past?" You hesitate. He adds, "Those who live in the past betray the present, and the present is my home." You never laugh without permission again. You don't even remember your cousin or the bucket. You question a superstition. It was just a conversation in the courtyard. Old Gisela used to say that if the bread falls with the crust side up, it means that the spirit of the oven is angry. Without thinking, you ask, "But what if it was just the wind?" Everyone freezes. Even the cow stops chewing. Your father-in-law appears, as if he had been summoned by doubt. "Are you challenging Gisela?" You try to soften it. "Just curious." He crosses his arms. Curiosity killed the cat, and then it killed those who kept asking about the cat. You make a gesture of silence, bow your head, and decide that from now on, bread is a prophet, and the wind an accomplice. You try to make poetry. Alone, on a cold morning, you mutter some verses that you've been mentally composing while cleaning the pigsty. Something about falling leaves, the fleetingness of life, the constant threat of dying by mistake. You write on a piece of old parchment and hide it. Your father-in-law finds it. Read it. "You wrote that?" You try to say it's just art. That's sadness with flourishes, and sadness with flourishes becomes music, and music calls troubadours, and troubadours are the harbinger of decadence. You try to say it was an accident, that the body needed it. He says, the body only needs 3 things: bread, purpose, and fear. What do you want? Comfort? You don't answer. Because it is. You want to. But the Middle Ages didn't deliver comfort. It only delivers ropes, fungus, and judgments. You ring the bell. You thought it was beautiful. An ancient bell hanging from a dead tree. A seemingly forgotten artifact. You played it once. Just once. The sound echoed like a warning, a call, a mistake. His father-in-law showed up in less than 2 minutes, with a hood and a look that belonged to another century. This bell was rung for the last time before the Saxon invasion. Each stroke summons spirits we've forgotten how to silence. You promise never to touch anything again. No bell, no spoon, not even in their own self-esteem. You try to play with a child. One of your wife's little nieces approaches. In an innocent gesture, you grimace. She laughs. You pretend to be a wolf. She runs away, screaming. It seems like a light moment, but not for the father-in-law. He appears in the doorway, his eyebrows arched, and his hand on the handle of his ceremonial axe. Did you scare a child? You try to explain that it was a joke. He retorts, play is the gateway to chaos, and children are like hot bread. If they fall on the floor, they're no good anymore. You don't understand, but you nod, and avoid any children in the coming months, even yours if they come. You try to organize the pantry. His wife comments discreetly that the pantry is a mess. Mixed grains, moldy roots, a chicken that refuses to come out of a sack of flour. You, eager to be useful, decide to reorganize. When he's finished, he feels proud. Everything in jars, each thing labeled with charcoal. She even separated the beans by color. Your father-in-law enters. Look, close your eyes. You've taken food out of the order of moods. Now barley thinks it's rye. This will affect the dreams of whoever eats it. You don't know if this is literal or metaphorical, but you apologize and start unpacking. The chicken, of course, goes back into the flour sack, as if nothing had happened. You find a coin. On the way to the well, you see an old coin covered in clay. You pick it up, clean it. You show it to your father-in-law like someone sharing an archaeological find. He looks. Then he says, "That coin was buried as an offering. Now that you've touched it, the offering is broken, and you have become the new payment." You try to laugh. He doesn't. "Are you kidding?" He replies, "It depends on the spirit that comes to charge." You improvise a song. During the harvest, the men in the fields sing rhythmically to keep pace. You, trying to blend in, improvise a verse. Wheat grows, the reaper cuts it, an angry father-in-law can never stand it. Laughs. 1 or 2. But the father-in-law listens. "Did you turn me into a rhyme?" You try to deny it. He raises his scythe and points at the field. "Go reap until you rhyme again, only this time with sweat." You mow until sunset. It doesn't rhyme anymore, not even in thought. You laugh to yourself. In the evening, sitting by the fire, you remember something. A moment from the past. Perhaps a cousin falling into a bucket. And you laugh. Shorty. Your father-in-law emerges from the shadows. "Why did you laugh?" You explain. He asks, "Do you still think about the past?" You hesitate. He adds, "Those who live in the past betray the present, and the present is my home." You never laugh without permission again. You don't even remember your cousin or the bucket. You question a superstition. It was just a conversation in the courtyard. Old Gisela used to say that if the bread falls with the crust side up, it means that the spirit of the oven is angry. Without thinking, you ask, "But what if it was just the wind?" Everyone freezes. Even the cow stops chewing. Your father-in-law appears, as if he had been summoned by doubt. "Are you challenging Gisela?" You try to soften it. "Just curious." He crosses his arms. Curiosity killed the cat, and then it killed those who kept asking about the cat. You make a gesture of silence, bow your head, and decide that from now on, bread is a prophet, and the wind an accomplice. You try to make poetry. Alone, on a cold morning, you mutter some verses that you've been mentally composing while cleaning the pigsty. Something about falling leaves, the fleetingness of life, the constant threat of dying by mistake. You write on a piece of old parchment and hide it. Your father-in-law finds it. Read it. You wrote that? You try to say it's just art. That's sadness with flourishes, and sadness with flourishes becomes music, and music calls troubadours, and troubadours are the harbinger of decadence. He burns the parchment, and he orders you to sing harvest hymns for 3 days in a row. You try to compliment the atmosphere. After an afternoon of light rain, you comment, "At least it refreshed." Your father-in-law stops sharpening his spear. "Do you like the cold?" You hesitate. "I like it, moderately." He comes closer. "My grandfather froze to death in the barn. He screamed for 7 hours. All you could hear was the sound of ice breaking on his beard. And you, like the cold?" You answer, "I like the heat, too. My mother got sunstroke on a Sunday at Mass, and her forehead was baked to death." You don't answer anymore. Climate is now taboo. You only comment on fog, when authorized. You try to teach something. A young shepherd leads the sheep astray. You gently point him in the right direction. You tell him how to avoid the soggy path. He thanks you. His father-in-law watches from afar. In the evening, over dinner, he says, "I saw that you taught the boy." Why? To help? To help is to disrespect the rhythm of ignorance, and ignorance here is structured. You understand? You'll never teach again, not even to himself. You look up at the sky. At night, gazing at the stars, you comment, "It looks like a star has fallen." His father-in-law, who was sharpening arrows, answered without looking, "You fell because someone looked too hard. Go to sleep before heaven chooses you." You sleep with your eyes closed, literally and symbolically. You dream big. While you're preparing the soup, your wife comments that she'd like to visit the big city one day. You say excitedly, "When everything calms down, maybe we'll travel together." His father-in-law, on the other side of the room, raises his spoon. Slowly. "Travel?" You try to clarify, "Just knowing the world. See the sea, maybe." He spits on the floor. Those who want to see the sea are those who have nothing to lose. They're either running away or they're trying to forget. And you have a lot to remember. You understand. Never mention distances again, except for steps, ground measurements, or pit depths. You draw a picture. On the wall of the shed, with charcoal, you discreetly scribble the silhouette of a tree. A memory from your childhood. No art intended. Just a memory. The father-in-law sees. "Did you paint a tree?" You smile shyly. "Yes, I like them." He replies, "My brother was crushed by a tree. To paint one is to mock memory, or to call up the same fate. The wall is washed with vinegar. You only draw on the ground now, with your foot, and then erase it. You drop something. While carrying a basket of eggs, you slip and drop 2. One snaps, another rolls. The hen clucks in revolt. The father-in-law appears as a specter. 2 eggs. You mumble. It was the wind and the tilt of the earth. The tilt of the earth is what holds everything in place, and you defied it. You offered to clean, replace, and ask the chickens for forgiveness. He replies, "If you can ask for forgiveness by looking into the chicken's eye, you're forgiven." You try. Gertrude ignores you. 2 others peck at your knees. You consider that a partial pardon. You try to innovate in cooking. One cold evening, you decide to season the soup with garlic and onion. Something modest, subtle. But his father-in-law finds the smell strange. That's not just a turnip. You admit it. I added a little flavor. He pales. Soup is made to remind us of hunger, not to disguise it. Hunger purifies. Taste corrupts. You'll never cook again, not even for you, not even for posterity. You praise his daughter. During a quiet night, you say to your wife quietly, "You're strong, like your father, but much kinder." She smiles. The father-in-law appears behind. "I heard." You freeze. "Thanks. For the strong part?" He replies, "Comparisons are dangerous. Even compliments carry poison. It's better to shut your tongue before it gets tangled up in your own pride." You make a mental note. Praise is now a secret act. Internal. Or just hand them over with tickets that you bury in the stable. You clean the church without being asked. The priest was ill. Mass wouldn't take place. You, wanting to help, decide to sweep the floor of the small village chapel. Quietly, out of respect, your father-in-law finds out. "Did you clean the altar?" You answer, "I just dusted it off." It had built up. He looks up at the sky. Dust is the memory of the saints. Dust is what remains of faith after it has passed through the body. You've swept up blessings. That's almost an exorcism. You ask the priest for forgiveness. He just coughed in her direction. You considered that absolution. You try to plant something new. The garden was tired. The soil was dry. So you brought some sweet turnip seeds, the kind your grandfather used to grow. You planted it hidden next to the lavender. A few days later, his father-in-law notices the different leaves. "What grows there?" You answer, "Experiment. Something that might feed better." He plucks the leaves, chews one, spits one out. "Sweet? Do you want the earth to smile? The earth only bears fruit with sacrifice, and sacrifice tastes like iron." You burn the rest of the seeds, and swear allegiance to the neutral taste. You help a widow. When you see the widow Clorinda tripping over firewood on the way, you run and help her carry the bundles. Kindness, that's all. In the evening, your father-in-law calls you. "Did you help Clorinda?" You confirm. You expect a thank you. He replies, "Helping a widow is like signing a pact of return. Widows don't ask. Widows just watch." You don't understand, but you decide never to offer firewood again. You ask the time. During a conversation by the fire, you're amazed at how fast the night goes. "It must be after 8, right?" Everyone looks. His father-in-law frowns. "Did you count the time, based on the sky?" You nod. He says, "Those who count time want to control it, and to control time is to play God." You just say it. It's clear, or it's dark. Nothing more, never again. You write a poem for your wife. One night, lonely, tired, and even hopeful, you write some verses. Leave the paper in the clay pot next to the bed. The next day, he disappeared. And with it, your peace. Your father-in-law calls you into the barn. He opens a piece of leather with a poem written in ink. "Is it yours?" You hesitate. He reads aloud, sentence by sentence, each verse as if it were an offense. In the end, he just says, "Beautiful, but useless," and spit on the paint. The poem bleeds. You refuse to kill an animal. The boar entered the corral. Gertrude screamed. The noise woke up even the ancestors buried behind the vegetable garden. Your father-in-law arrived with a spear. He handed it to you. "Mate." You hesitated. You looked the animal in the eye. It was trembling. It wasn't attacking. It was just lost. He's just scared. His father-in-law didn't answer. He just waited. You didn't kill. He killed him. With a dry blow, no anger, no rush. Then he looked at you and said, "Anyone who hesitates between a pulse and pity isn't even good at sharpening spits." You question the existence of a curse. A wheel broke. A candle went out by itself. A lamb was born with only 2 teeth. The village murmured, "Sign of the curse of the shadowless crow." You, tired, asked, "What if it was just a coincidence?" Silence fell like a plague. His father-in-law approached. "Coincidence is an excuse for the weak. The curse exists because we believe in it, and it survives what we doubt." You come to agree with all the curses, including those involving upturned shoes and goats that whisper at night. You confuse a name. During supper, you call your father-in-law's brother Bertoldo. His name is Balterio. You realize too late. He chokes with rage. He slams his fist on the table. Bertoldo was a traitor. He ran off with 3 pigs and a nun. You compared me to a thief of sacred vows? You try to fix it, but it's too late. You spend the rest of the week being called the one who doesn't know names. Worse than that, only those who can't pray. You talk about dreams. During a quiet moment by the fire, your wife asks if you're still dreaming. You answer, "I dreamt we were in a clean city, with smooth stone streets, and nobody spat where they slept." The father-in-law, who was pretending to sleep, opens his eyes. Dreams like that are dangerous. They weaken the body. They make the soul think there is salvation. You pretend to forget the dream, but it comes back every night. You ask for a day off. It was just a suggestion. One day. A short break between mowing, hunting, carrying, cleaning, praying, fearing, obeying. You didn't even say time off, just time for the body to breathe. His father-in-law replied, "The body breathes in death. While it lives, it works." You return to the field, breathing in silence, with guilt. During the fair, an old man who has never seen you before approaches you and comments, "Are you the Baron's son-in-law? You seem to be a man of your word." You say thank you, surprised, even delighted. His father-in-law watches from afar. At night, he calls you. A man who attracts too much praise attracts envy, and envy opens the door to misfortune. Yours is already ajar. You try to say that you didn't ask for a compliment, but the door was already ajar, and it creaked. You fixed something without breaking it first. The car's wheel was loose. You adjusted it. He did it well. Nobody asked you to, but you prevented an accident. Your father-in-law finds out. He stays silent for a few minutes. Then he says, "You fixed it, without it breaking. Is that divination? Have you seen the future?" You deny it. You say it was just a precaution. He replies, "Precaution is arrogance in disguise. It's saying you know more than the weather." You promise that next time you won't fix it until after the disaster. You sing to a baby. The miller's son couldn't stop crying. No one could calm him down. You instinctively sing an old song from your childhood. The baby sleeps. The mother is grateful. But the father-in-law hears the melody. That song has strange words. Where did it come from? You answer, "From the south." He spits on the floor. The south is where the winds go wild, and where singing attracts crows. But what will come when he wakes up? You start singing just for yourself, in thought. No voice, no rhythm. You think out loud. One cloudy evening, sitting near the entrance to the house, you whisper, "Will things ever change?" It wasn't a request, nor a complaint, just a question that got away. His father-in-law was nearby. Change? He spits. Change is tragedy in disguise. And you, like tragedy, you answer, no. He says, then shut up before she hears. You shut up. You survive. Yes, a mistake. In his father-in-law's logic, living is almost always a provocation to death. You weren't hanged or expelled or sent off with the pigs. You just carry on. And to continue in the Middle Ages is suspect. The father-in-law is watching you, with a mixture of tiredness, curiosity, and a hint of something that, if it were another century, could be respect. But it's not another century. This is it. It's always this one. You raise your voice. There was no shouting, no argument. You only raised your voice to call a child who had almost fallen into the well. You saved her. His father-in-law appeared the next moment. You spoke too loudly. You tried to explain. It was urgent. He scratched his chin. A loud voice belongs to those who demand, and those who demand will one day be in charge. You're not here to command. You're here to survive. You promise never to raise your voice again, not even to save, not even to save yourself. You offer help without being asked. One of his father-in-law's cousins was trying to climb onto a roof to change the tiles. He slipped. He grumbled. You held the ladder. That's all. When he got downstairs, his cousin thanked him. His father-in-law watched from afar. In the evening, at supper, he comments, "You want to appear useful, but too useful becomes insubordination. A man who anticipates error defies destiny. You start waiting for the tiles to fall, and hopefully they won't hit anyone. Or hit you, gently. You try to teach your wife to read. She saw you writing. She asked to understand a word. You showed, just one. The next morning, her father-in-law calls her, and then he calls you. She said she learned a letter. Did you? You hesitate, but confess. Yes. He squeezes his eyes shut. Women who read think, and women who think remember, and women who remember ask questions. You ask for forgiveness, and he starts to hide his words. You talk about building something new. The house creaks. The ceiling cries. A wall threatens to cave in. You suggest we could build an annex. A shelter, something new. The father-in-law looks as if you've suggested building a cathedral with his name reversed. New? The new is the enemy of the old, and the old sustains this world. Do you want to touch the base? You step back. He promises that he will only reinforce it, with clay and silence. You've been around too long. Yes, that's all. Many seasons have passed, many winters, many tasks endured, many sins you haven't committed, but almost. And yet, you're here. The father-in-law notices. You didn't break it. That worries me. You say thank you. You almost smile. He adds, a man who doesn't break may be bending. And those who bend too much break inside. You shut up, again, and breathe slowly. You look in the mirror. It wasn't a real mirror, just a piece of polished metal, forgotten among the kitchen utensils. You see yourself, for a second. Your face, his tiredness. What's left of the man who came here. His father-in-law passes by, sees the scene, stops. Are you contemplating? You answer, I just saw myself. He says, a mirror is vanity, and vanity is the first lock on the soul. A man who looks at himself too much forgets to see the world. You never face reflexes again, not even in puddles. You step inside them. Director. You get emotional. During a ceremony in the village, A young couple gets married. You, exhausted, watch. You remember your own wedding, almost erased in the fog of fear. A tear escapes. The father-in-law sees. Do you cry? You dry your eyes. You don't answer. A man who cries is a man who feels, and feeling is the way to fall. You learn to blink slowly, very slowly, so that no tears form. You talk about hope. In conversation with an old fisherman, he asks if you think the harvest will improve. You answer, I think so. There's always a chance. The father-in-law was behind the mill. Later, he approaches. Hope is like melted wax, slippery, hot, and useless without a wick. Do you have a wick? You say no. Who only has what they've been given? He accepts that, for now. You try to smile. Just a moment. For you. No audience. But the father-in-law notices. Are you happy? You hesitate, but answer. Just calm. He says, the calm comes before the storm. Or betrayal. You promise never to smile again. I wouldn't dream of it, not even inside. You survive history. Yes, you're still here. After all the tasks, tests, looks, trials, threats, and judgments, you're still alive. And that's perhaps the biggest reason. The father-in-law didn't kill you. Still. But the simple fact that you're still breathing, still thinking, still dreaming, even in secret, perhaps, for him, is provocation enough. Then you go to sleep, quiet, with one eye open and the heart bent but whole. Good evening, and watch out for the fiefdom. You try to learn something new. A traveler arrived in the village, rare, dirty, with the smell of hay and words from the east. He talked about constellations, maps, a world beyond our own. You heard it, with open eyes, curious. Later, he told his father-in-law. Interesting what he said about the sky. Her father-in-law replied without looking up. Heaven is what's above. Only those who die need to understand it. You shut up, but the words stayed inside, as if a map had begun to be drawn in the dark of his mind. You sit down in the shade. In the afternoon, the sun was burning. After 2 hours of carrying sacks of wheat, you sat down under the tree near the well. Just for a moment, just not to die. Your father-in-law passed by, saw, stopped. You resting? You, just for a moment, sir. He replied, shade is for those who are old, and those who owe the day don't deserve freshness. You stand up. Your leg tingles. Your soul is reconfiguring itself. You quote a proverb. It was just patio talk. Someone commented that the rains were taking a while. You, trying to lighten the mood, say, as my grandfather used to say, rain delayed is bread guaranteed. Pause. Your father-in-law frowns. Did your grandfather say that? You confirm. He replies, because your grandfather was lying, and now you too. You learn that sayings are local properties, and only approved ancestors can philosophize. You admire a flower. It was a solitary flower, growing between the stones near the pigsty. Blue, small, useless. You crouched down. You stared for long seconds. His father-in-law showed up. Are you praying to the ground? You. No. Just admiring. He scratched his chin. Admiration is a waste of energy. Look at what nourishes, not what dies pretty. You'll never admire flowers again, but think about them. Disguised. You ask what was there before. In a calmer evening, you approach your father-in-law with caution. Question. Do you know who lived here before the village existed? He looks at you as if you've asked him to open a tomb. Before here, there was nothing, and nothing is dangerous, because it reminds us that the world is bigger than our surroundings. You apologize, and back to the stable. The world stays in your head, but his head down. You wipe your shoes before going inside. It rained. The mud was up to your ankles. As you approached the door out of modern instinct, you wiped your shoe on the stone edge. Her father-in-law watched from the corner of the balcony. Are you cleaning the clay off the land that gives you food? You answer, just so the floor doesn't get dirty. He says, the dirt of the earth is a blessing. Cleanliness is an insult. If you don't want to step in the mud, go live in the clouds. You walk in with dirty shoes, and with his soul slightly bruised. You refuse meat. It was a dark piece with the smell of something that didn't die yesterday, served with the gaze of his father-in-law. You, with your stomach turning, whisper, I think I'll just have bread today. The silence outweighed the flesh. Do you refuse what the animal gave you? It's not that. Then eat, or you'll be just like him, only without the utility. You chew, slowly, praying in thought. You forget to respond to a nod. His father-in-law, on the other side of the field, raised his hand in brief greeting. You didn't see it, or you saw too late, or hesitated. On his return, he comments, a delayed response is like betrayal. It comes, but it's already hurt. You respond immediately with 3 nods and a slight smile, but then you exaggerated. He frowns. Now you're mocking? You learn that in the Middle Ages, gestures had timing, and any delay is suspicious. You name a pig. He was the smallest of the litter, with a spot on his muzzle. You called him Teobaldo, just for fun. When he hears this, his father-in-law stops. Did you name the animal? You smile, still unaware of the mistake. Yes, he's different. Naming is creating a bond, and a bond with meat is a sin. Are you going to eat Teobaldo? You deny it, cringing. He replies, so now we have a problem. A pig with a name, and a son-in-law who thinks too much. The pig is renamed Meat 7. You lose the right to name names. You light a candle out of turn. It was night, but the moonlight was enough. You, used to the dark being uncomfortable, lit a candle to find a bucket. Her father-in-law walks down the steps with narrowed eyes. The light is for those who still have doubts. Did you have doubts about the bucket? You try to explain that it was just a habit. He says, in darkness you see what is necessary. Light reveals the superfluous. You blow out the candle. He trips over the bucket. Accept the dark as penance. You try to shorten a path. The path between the stable and the field is long, winding, full of stones and branches. One day, tired, you discover a passageway behind the mill, half the distance. You start to use it, quietly, discreetly, until his father-in-law notices. Where are you walking? You explain. You even try to show the shortcut. He shakes his head in disappointment. The long road teaches patience. The short way teaches laziness. And laziness is the mother of insubordination. You're back on the long road, with stones in their feet, and too many lessons behind my back. You blow into the soup. The soup was boiling. You, as any being with a mouth and tongue would do, blow on it lightly before tasting it. The father-in-law sees. Are you blowing the breath of life? You get confused. It was only hot. He replies, then accept the heat, swallow it with pain, because it's from pain that memories are born. You drink the boiling soup, and remember, every time he feels his tongue. You ask about tomorrow. It was late afternoon. The wheat was dancing in the wind. You, exhausted and melancholy, ask your father-in-law, What do you think comes after all this? He doesn't understand, or pretends not to. After what? Of life, of the earth, of what we do. He replies dryly. Then comes the harvest. Then comes more clay. Then comes silence. And if you ask one more time, maybe the end will come. You don't ask any more. You adjust a chair. It was crooked, uneven. You put a stone under one of your feet just to balance it. Your father-in-law sits down. Note, remain silent for long minutes. Then he says, "Did you fix the chair?" You answer hesitantly, just so it wouldn't wobble. He says, "He who corrects what is crooked thinks he is straight, and no one who thinks they are straight escapes the axe." The stone is removed. The chair creaks again. You learn to accept the squeak and bad posture. You try to say thank you. After a particularly difficult day, you've lost a bucket, stepped on hot coals, and been pecked by Gertrude 3 times. Your father-in-law hands you an extra piece of bread. You smile. "Thank you." He looks. "Don't thank me. It wasn't generosity. It was excess. And excess should be consumed, not celebrated." You eat in silence, and he promises never to confuse bread with gesture again. You try to record the time. You've marked small lines in the corner of the shed wall, 1 per day, just to see how many days you had survived. Your father-in-law finds it. "Are you counting the days?" You explain, "Just so I don't get lost." He replies, "Getting lost is part of the tradition. Knowing how much time has passed is the first step towards wanting it to pass more quickly. And that is impatience. And impatience kills more than the plague." He scrapes the marks with the blade of a scythe. You can only count on your knuckles. And he starts again when he forgets. You compare. Seeing the cobbler's son running across the field, you comment, "When I was a boy, I used to run like that too," on a similar course. Your father-in-law listens. "Are you saying it was better there?" You try to deny it. "Only it was different." He says, "What's different is what the traders say before they change everything. You'll never compare anything again, not even in the past. No bread, nor climates." You kiss your wife on the forehead. It was a quick gesture, tender, on a morning when she looked tired. His father-in-law saw. Did you mark her head? You. It was just a kiss. A kiss on the forehead seals ideas. Did you put thoughts in it? You don't answer, and he begins to show affection only with accidental touches and carefully neutral glances. You take time off unintentionally. One stormy afternoon, the work stopped. Everyone gathered. You sat down. You leaned back. You dozed off. 20 minutes, maybe less. Your father-in-law wakes you up with a bucket of water. Resting without warning is a betrayal of routine. You're wet, confused, apologizing. He adds, "When the rain falls, you should fall with it. Not on hay, but on thought." You don't understand, but he pretends he is, and it begins to simulate activity even during thunderstorms. You hesitate before entering. One day, when you get home, you stop at the door, just for a second, just to breathe. The father-in-law sees, as always. What are you waiting for? Permission? You. No. Just ... Just what? The outside world is worse, but if you doubt home, you're already out of it. You go in, without hesitation, with the air stuck in my chest, and his eyes on the ground. During a particularly quiet morning, you comment as you pass the plantation. The wind is beautiful today. His father-in-law, who was weeding next door, stopped. The wind is not beautiful. It's necessary. You try to soften it. Yes, of course. I just meant that It's nice. He continues. Pleasant is a word that has no function. Wind is for moving, drying, blowing, not to be praised. You learn that adjectives are also dangerous, and that the wind should be accepted like bread, hard, direct, and unadorned. You forget to take your hat off. When you enter the barn in a hurry with your head full, you forget. The hat stays on. Your father-in-law watches. Calmly. Did you go through the door covered? You, already taking it off, answer, it was a distraction. He says, distraction is the cousin of disobedience, and every forgotten hat carries a hidden intention. You don't understand, but he vows never to forget. You touch his sword. It wasn't out of defiance, nor out of curiosity. It was hanging. It was rusting. On impulse, you moved it to a drier corner. Your father-in-law notices. He approaches with slow steps. Did you touch her? You. I just took it out of the humidity. To preserve it. It's not to be preserved. It's to be remembered. He picks it up and leaves it where it was. You walk around it, as if it were a tombstone or a guard animal. You sing to yourself. On a cleaning day, sweeping the patio, you murmur, a melody without lyrics, a repetitive sound, to pass the time. The father-in-law appears at the window. Are you calling someone? Number, just humming. He says, to sing without words is to speak without courage, and those who have no courage hide dangers. You'll never sing again. No sounds either. No rhythmic sighs. You daydream. During a moment when the hoe seems to be moving on its own, your mind flies. You think of a hot oven, a place where no one watches, a life without judgment. The father-in-law sees. He always does. Where were you just now? You answer, here. Number. His body was, but his soul has gone. And when it comes back, maybe it won't be yours anymore. You learn to keep even your thoughts on the ground, at least the visible ones. You slip and apologize. It was raining. The stones in the courtyard were more treacherous than usual. You were carrying a basket of damp hay, tripped and fell, scattering the contents on the ground. He got up quickly, without hurting himself, but he apologized. Sorry. His father-in-law was close, very close. Excuse who? You try to answer, for the inconvenience, for the mess. He looks at you, as if he'd heard the wrong prayer. Apologizing for a mistake is a way of saying that it happened by accident, and accidents don't exist, only failures, and faults carry themselves. They can't be apologized for. You keep quiet, collect the hay, and he keeps the apology in the same drawer where he left his smiles. You whistle. It was involuntary, a sliver of melody between his teeth, something he'd heard in childhood and sprung from the silence of the afternoon. But it didn't go unnoticed. Your father-in-law turns his face away, slowly. Who are you calling? You hesitate. Nobody. So what are you calling for? You try to back away. He concludes, whistling is called hunting, and also thief. You're neither, or are you? You promise you won't, and he never lets the air leave his lips with rhythm again. You say you miss him. In a conversation with one of the estate's employees, you speak almost harmlessly. I miss home, the smell of my mother's bread, the sound of the bells in the village where I grew up. The next day, his father-in-law leaves a basket of stones at his bedroom door. You ask, what for? To remind you that wait is a gift. Longing is poison. Those who carry the past lose the strength to carry what matters. You take the stones to the field, and he never talks about what's left behind. You lean against a book. It was an old notebook forgotten among the straw bales, a collection of prayers, recipes for ointments, and notes on the phases of the moon. You open it out of curiosity. You leaf through it carefully. Your father-in-law shows up. Do you read? You, with the page between your fingers, try to answer cautiously. Not much. I only recognize a few words. He closes the book tightly. Whoever recognizes a word soon recognizes an idea, and those who recognize ideas one day contest them. The book is taken away, and you only read the signs of time. In the face of the oxen, in the dryness of the earth. You're too quiet, out of habit, out of fear, out of strategy. You go whole days without saying anything more than necessary. One of these afternoons, your father-in-law watches you as you tie up sheaves of wheat. He says, "Too much silence is a plot. The voice should weigh on the air like a hoe weighs on the shoulder. Not always, but when it's time." You think about saying something, but you can't find what, and decides to cough, just once. He nods. Better. You refuse to laugh at a joke. The miller tells a joke about goats and nuns. The village laughs. So does your father-in-law. You don't. Not out of judgment. He just didn't find it funny. The father-in-law notices. You didn't laugh? You answer honestly, "I don't think I understand." He says, "Then explain yourself." Because if you don't laugh with others, you're already laughing inside at something that's yet to happen. You smile, forced, and then he laughs at himself. Silently. You talk about the future. During the harvest, someone comments on planting something new. You say excitedly, "It would be interesting to think about what the field could provide in 5 or 10 years' time." The father-in-law puts down the tool. You count years like coins, but every day is a debt that you pay with your body, and the future is a bill collector who knocks on the door without announcing the amount. You start measuring time in steps, and thinking about the future only when the day is over. You walk with your hands in your pockets, by habit, out of cold, for not knowing what to do with them. But the gesture doesn't go unnoticed. His father-in-law, while chopping wood, comments, "Hands in pockets are hidden hands, and hidden hands carry secrets. Here the hands work, or they rest open, never inside themselves." You take your hands away and learn to let them show, even when they tremble. You sleep on your side. Yes, that's a problem too. One night, someone notices you sleeping curled up, with your knees drawn up, your arm under your face. At breakfast, the father-in-law says, "A man who sleeps curled up is a man who fears himself, or who wants to go back to the womb. Here, you sleep as if you were going to die, straight, exposed, and ready." You change position, and he starts training for death, one night at a time. You try to teach the dog to sit. One of the farm dogs, a mongrel with wet eyes and milk teeth, has started to follow you. You gently try to teach him to sit. The father-in-law sees. Do you want him to sit down? You confirm. He asks, "And then what? Will you teach him to speak? To pray? To write letters to his mother?" You laugh. A mistake. He concludes, "A man who teaches too much begins to forget what he needs to learn." You stop teaching and start following the dog, from afar, admiring your freedom. You are recognized by an old acquaintance. A man passes through the village. He recognizes you from his childhood, from the days when you sold vegetables in the market and sang to attract customers. You? Here? Still alive? You smile shyly. Yes, I'm still alive. The father-in-law sees the conversation. He waits for the stranger to leave. Then he says, "People who know who you were may want you back, and what you were doesn't suit us." You never say hello to strangers anymore, not even with your eyes. You swat a fly while praying. Mass was held in the shed, a murmured, monotonous chant, with the smell of dust and fermented faith. You were concentrating until a fly landed on your nose. You startled her, lightly, with your hand. His father-in-law saw. Did you scare the spirit away? You tried to explain. It was just a fly. He replied, what if it wasn't? What if it was someone's soul coming to see if you deserved forgiveness? You learn that in the Middle Ages, even insects had spiritual functions, and that any gesture, no matter how small, can put you before eternal judgment, or your father-in-law. Which, by the way, is almost the same thing. You talk to a priest about doubts. After Mass, in a moment of impulse, you pull the priest aside. You ask in a low voice, "Do you really believe that everything is written down?" The priest smiles. He doesn't answer. He just looks at his father-in-law, and the father-in-law looks at you. Later, he comments, "Anyone who asks about what is written wants to rewrite it." You try to talk yourself out of it. He concludes, "And every writer, one day becomes a martyr." You start avoiding priests and texts and doubts. You comb your hair. Simple. A wooden comb. 3 discreet strokes before going out. His father-in-law watches from afar. "What are you preparing for?" You answer, "Just fixing my hair." Whoever tidies up what's outside is already trying to hide what's inside. You leave the comb, and he comes to value untidiness as a sign of purity. You smile at a child. Your wife's cousin's son runs past. He grimaces. You smile back. Natural, affectionate. The father-in-law sees. Are you influencing the little ones? I just smiled. Smiles teach, and you don't have a license to teach anything. You learn that kindness is a form of rebellion, and that spontaneous affection is only allowed with animals, and not always. You ask the origin of a custom. During a meal, everyone leaves a piece of bread on the corner of their plate. You, curious, ask, "Why are we doing this?" The father-in-law stops chewing. Are you questioning the reserve of the spirit? You try to explain. I just wanted to understand. Understanding is the first step to disrespect. You never ask again. Just watch and imitate, even without knowing why. You sleep before the others. After an exhausting day at work, you eat in silence and retire. The light hasn't gone out yet, but your eyes can't stand it. The father-in-law notices. The next morning, he says, "You slept without knowing if the day is over." That's haste. And haste is the heritage of those who want to escape reality. You learn to wait for everyone to sleep, even if sleep comes first, even if the body begs. You recite a psalm with a different intonation. During your morning prayer, out of distraction or personal style, you chant a phrase to a different tune. Not better, not worse, just different. The father-in-law listens. Do you want to lead the prayer? You try to apologize. I didn't mean to. It just came out like that. He replies, when the voice changes, the spirit changes, and a restless spirit attracts confusion. You start mumbling. No melody, almost no sound. You feed a cat. The village had an old cat with burnt fur and dull eyes. He approached during dinner. You threw a piece of bread. His father-in-law saw. Are you feeding the messengers? It's just a cat. A cat walks between worlds, and what you give it, it gives back in the form of revelation. You learn that cats are like bells. They ring when they're not supposed to, and they are avoided. You refuse a glass of wine. During a celebration, your father-in-law offers you wine. You, with a headache, say, "Not today, thank you." He raises his eyebrows. Do you reject what you unite? You try to say that you don't feel well. He replies, refusal is the seed of isolation, and isolation is the next sacrifice. You drink, with an iron taste, and remorse. You say you're happy. It wasn't planned, it just came out. During the harvest, with the basket full, the sun warm, and the temporary absence of pain, you comment, "Today, I'm happy." The father-in-law stops. He's watching you. Take a handful of soil. Rub it between your hands. Happy? You confirm. He throws the earth on the ground. Then this happiness better not last, because those who are happy here soon die, or worse, gets distracted. You feign sadness, until it became real. You speak well of someone who is absent. During the mowing, someone mentions Tadeu, a former resident of the village who left years ago. Some say he ran away, others that he became a saint. You, unaware of the rule, comment, "He was a good man. He taught me how to plant fennel without drying out the root." The father-in-law stops, the hoe in his hand, his eyes closed as if the sun had just insulted him. Do you speak well of those who left? You try to soften it. It was just a good memory. He replies, good memories of those who have gone are slow poisons. One day they turn into a desire to go too. You mentally promise to forget about Thaddeus and the whole range of aromatic herbs. You fold your clothes. For the sake of order, or perhaps because the only shirt that still had a button deserved some respect, you folded your clothes. His father-in-law entered the room. He saw the pile. What are you preparing for? A trip? You answer, just trying to keep everything clean. Him. A man who organizes is a man who plans. And those who plan are already half out of the village. You unfold the clothes, sleep on them, and he learns that bends are only acceptable in the knees, and that's about it. You cry for a cow. The family's old cow, Katerina, with her dragging gait and human look, died after slipping in the mud. You helped bury her, and when he finished, he felt what he shouldn't have. Emotion. One tear. Just one. His father-in-law saw. Do you cry for animals? You. She was good, quiet, listened to me. Animals are meant to serve. When it stops serving, it becomes meat. And when it becomes meat, it becomes forgotten. You dry your eyes with hay, and you learn that even grief has its limits. You improvise a prayer. In the priest's absence, you were asked to lead a morning prayer. You, with the trepidation, offered. He spoke softly, using simple words. He asked for protection, rain, and less judgment. He ended with Amen. Silence. The father-in-law, did you make that up? You tried to explain. It was just a variation. The essentials are there. He replies, words that don't come from the book come from doubt, and doubt never prays. It only sows. You start repeating shorter sentences letter by letter, and only in groups. You mention a good dream. While working in the fields, one of the young people says that he dreamt of a donkey flying. Everyone laughs. You, in the mood, say, I dreamt of warm bread, and my mother smiling. The father-in-law again. Do you dream about the past? You confirm shyly. Him. The past is sand. Whoever sleeps on it sinks. dream of the hoe, or nothing at all. You learn to lie about your dreams. From then on, he says, he dreamt of stone, fire, and emptiness, in that order. You walk slowly. It was just tiredness, the body demanding every step. But his father-in-law notices. Why are you dragging your feet? You answer, just tired. Him. Tiredness is a choice. The body only feels what the mind allows. You speed up, even with blisters. Even though my spine was protesting. You stare at the horizon for a long time. At lunchtime, while everyone was eating, you stared over the hill. There was nothing there, but the emptiness was calling you. The father-in-law sees. What are you waiting for? You. Nothing? Just looking. Anyone who looks too far ends up being pulled in. Look at the plate. Look at the ground. Look at the now. You obey. And he eats with his eyes lowered, even when the plate is empty. You pet a goat. He came closer, without haste, with that look of someone who carries ancestral secrets. You put your hand on its head. The goat closed his eyes. Your father-in-law saw. You like animals too much. You. They're easier to understand. Him. Men who understand animals too much begin to forget how to understand people. And people are a priority here, until further notice. You stop stroking, and he treats everyone with the same suspicious reverence. You wash your hands often. A habit. Before eating, after handling things. A remnant of your former life. Soap doesn't exist, but water helps. The father-in-law notices. Are you afraid of dirt? You. I'm just trying to stay healthy. Him. Health is measured by the absence of screams. Those who wash too much want to erase traces. You get dirty with purpose, and not to dry your hands, to show that nothing has been hidden. You try to teach his granddaughter how to count. She asks, curious. You show her your fingers. 1, 2, 3. The father-in-law shows up. What are you teaching? You. Just numbers, just for her to play with. Him. Counting is measuring. Measuring is doubting what is enough. A child who counts soon begins to calculate, and those who calculate plan, and those who plan. You interrupt. Got it. You forget the numbers, and he starts measuring time with size. You close your eyes for a long time. He didn't sleep. The vision only stopped for a second, but his father-in-law saw. Are you trying to escape? You. No. Just resting. Those who rest too much dream, and those who dream betray the now. You keep your eyes open, even when you feel sleepy. Or dust. You sing to yourself. In a rare moment of silence, you whisper a melody without lyrics, something that came from childhood. It didn't last 2 bars. His father-in-law overheard. Are you calling someone? You deny it. Him. To sing without permission is to spread desires. And here, desire is an outsider's thing. You're silent, and he wonders if mental singing is also forbidden. You ask about the name of a field. There's a field that nobody walks on. They call it the middle ground. Without wanting to cause a fuss, you ask, why is he called that? The father-in-law stops chopping wood. You try to laugh, but you realize the tone is serious. In the middle of what? He replies, in the middle of what we know, and what we don't want to know. You never ask about names again, not even places, people, or diseases. You pray before you eat, alone. It was just an intimate gesture. Before the meal, in a moment of silence, you thanked me quietly. The father-in-law is watching you. Did you pray without being asked? You. Yes, out of habit. Him. Prayer is collective. faith alone becomes a secret, and every secret stinks. You start expecting others, and swallowing the urge to say thank you. You try to imitate the local accent, a gesture of adaptation, to seem less foreign, less out of place. An intonation here, an expression there. The father-in-law notices. Are you trying to disguise yourself? You try to justify it, just trying to fit in. Men who adapt too much forget who they are, and those who forget where they came from end up coming from nowhere. You go back to your way of speaking, and he is reminded of this every day. You look up at the sky while working. The sun was beautiful. Lightning was elegantly breaking through the clouds. You looked. You just looked. His father-in-law saw. What interests you up there? You? Nothing. Just light. Him. Light is distracting. Look down, where the clay lives, where the hoe sings. You learn that even beauty can be interpreted as a challenge. You try to console someone. A man was crying beside the mill. His son had run away. You approach him, put your hand on his shoulder and say, "It will pass." His father-in-law watches from afar. Later, he comments, "You spoke of hope?" You hesitate. It was just a consolation. Consolation is the leaven of rebellion. Pain must be digested, not sweetened. You'll never console anyone again, not even injured animals. You wake up before everyone else. It was dawn. You woke up naturally without being startled. The rooster was still sleeping. The field was a stretched shadow. You decide to make the most of the time. Light the fire. Prepare some water. Your father-in-law appears behind you, silent as a mist with intentions. Are you awake earlier than you need to be? You? Yes. I just thought I could get on with the tasks. Him. A man who gets ahead of himself without orders is trying to control the day, and the day has an owner. You put out the fire, go back to bed, but sleep has gone. Next to tranquility. You sneeze. The day was dry. Straw dust rose into the air. His nose responded with a dry, involuntary sneeze. The father-in-law stops chopping wood and turns his neck like a suspicious crow. Do you want to announce something? You. It was just allergies. Allergy is the invention of those who refuse the world. Here, we refuse nothing. You hold the next sneeze tight. A vein almost burst, but it survives. You cast too much shade. During the walk to the corral, the morning sun beats down on his back. His shadow casts long, overtaking everyone else's. The father-in-law sees. Are you trying to outgrow the others? You. It's just the sun. Him. Whoever grows without deserving it becomes a crooked tree. And a crooked tree hinders the harvest. You walk more bent over, as if the shadow needed to shrink along with his will. You clean the stable efficiently. The droppings were dry. The hay was dirty. You cleaned up quickly, a job well done. The father-in-law passes by, looks at the ground. You cleaned too much. You. It was pretty dirty. Him. Too clean, a stable looks new, and new always offends the memory. You throw back some old straw, and he leaves 2 piles unswept, just to look human. You listen to an old story with too much attention. The old man in the village tells about the man who slept for 3 days and woke up with a white beard. The story has no plot, but you listen carefully. The father-in-law in the background watches you. Do you believe that? You. I find it curious. Him. The curious are those who are about to doubt or to imitate, and neither fits here. You pretend to be distracted during stories, but inside he repeats each one. like someone memorizing their own future crimes. You ring an old bell. It was decorative, hanging from a tree. You touched it lightly, just to see if it still made a sound. Fez. Your father-in-law shows up immediately. That bell was used to summon the dead. You. I didn't know. Now you know, and knowing too much is a problem. You promise never to touch anything round, metallic, or sacred again. You count how many stones there are in the well. It was a hobby. While you were waiting for the water to rise, you started counting the stones on the edge. 1, 2, 3. Your father-in-law sees. You. No, just watching. Observing too much becomes a map, and a map becomes an escape. You look at the water, and start counting backwards, just to confuse fate. You sit on the wrong bench. The afternoon shade invites you to relax. There are 3 benches. You sit on the nearest one. Then you find out that it's Dad's bench. Your father-in-law. You took the seat without asking? You. I didn't mean to. Him. Whoever sits down without knowing it is already on the throne. And the throne is always watched. You start sitting on the floor, even when there's a bank, even when there's mud. You look at the grains before grinding them. Before turning the wheel, you look at the grains. An old habit, looking at the food, touching it, smelling it. The father-in-law sees. Are you suspicious of the harvest? You. I just appreciate the work done. Appreciation is related to doubt. Grind without thinking. Eating is destiny. You grind hard and close your eyes. You answer a question with another question. Have you seen the knife? What knife? The father-in-law froze for a second. Are you asking a question? You try to undo it. Just trying to understand. Those who try to understand too much will one day try to lead. You answer everything with yes and no. Even when the question is, what's the weather like? You fall silent after a compliment. A farmer compliments his harvest. Well done. You just nod. No thanks. The father-in-law sees. Are you silent in the face of praise? You. I didn't know what to say. He who is silent in the face of glory hides his pride, and silent pride ferments into ambition. You start to appreciate everything, even insults. You wear a cape unnecessarily. The wind was light. The cape wasn't urgent, but you liked it. It gave you an air of survival. Your father-in-law sees. What are you hiding? You. Nothing. Just cold. Him. Those who cover themselves without ice want to disguise themselves, and disguise is always a thief's move. You keep the cape, and he accepts the cold as penance. You draw on the ground with a branch, a doodle, nothing much, a swirl perhaps, a flower, an initial. Your father-in-law steps on it. Put it out. Are you summoning something? You? No, just distracted. Him. Distraction is the cousin of evocation, and every evocation has an answer. You only use the floor to step on, never to express. You help someone without them asking. Old Alphonse was carrying buckets. You reflexively grab one of them. He says, "Thank you." The father-in-law sees. Did you intervene in the effort? You. I wanted to spare him. Whoever spares too much interrupts the journey, and an interrupted journey weakens the spirit. You never help anyone again, unless the bucket falls on you. You rid a torn piece of paper. It was just a scrap in the stable. One letter, one word, maybe hope. You looked. His father-in-law saw. Do you decipher fragments? You. I didn't mean to. Him. Everything you want begins with not wanting it. You close your eyes in front of the letters, even on wheat sack labels. You whisper to yourself. In the field, you talk to the earth. Things like, "It's hard today," or "Hang in there." The father-in-law listens from afar. Who are you talking to? You. With nothing, with the ground. Him. The ground doesn't respond, but it listens, and it carries what you say. You become silent even in your thoughts, so as not to contaminate the soil. You praise a loaf of bread made by someone else. In the village, a woman brought honey bread. You take a bite. It's delicious. You comment, "That one was special." The father-in-law looks away. Too much honey on the bread, and too much praise in the mouth. It will sweeten the heart and rot the mind. You learn to chew in neutral, and he never mentions sweetness in public again. You watch a trial with a neutral expression. The blacksmith was accused of stealing a candle. No one saw it, but everyone knew. The judgment was simple. If you look too hard, you've seen something, and he looked. You were there, quiet. But the father-in-law noticed your face, neither pity nor approval. Just neutral. Don't you get emotional? You answer, "I don't know enough to judge." He says, "He who does not judge, one day acquits." And whoever acquits without being able to attracts the weight of the crime. You start to simulate sadness, or indignation. Never again neutrality. You laugh at the name of a herb. It was just a dry leaf called stinky in the sunset. You laughed. A restrained, muffled laugh, but you laughed. The father-in-law, "Did you laugh at a cure?" You try. It was just the name. Curious. Him. The name is what holds the essence. To mock the name is to spit on usefulness. You'll never laugh at names again. Not even animals, plants, or people. You sleep with your hand on your chest. Nobody understands why, but they say that sleeping with your hand on your chest is a sign of haughtiness. You sleep like this out of habit, until his father-in-law noticed. Do you think you're carrying something in there? You answer, "Just comfort." It's a natural position. Him. Nothing is natural here. Everything is observed, even your rest. You change position, and dreams of tied hands, just in case. You sit with your back to the door. In the kitchen, there are only 2 stools. One faces the door, another faces the wall. You choose the second one by chance. The father-in-law enters. 2. Don't you want to see who comes in? You. It was the bank that was left. Him. He who turns his back on the entrance will one day close the exit. You turn the seat, but he feels he'll never be in the right position again. You blow on the fire. The firewood took a while. You blow. A small gesture. Flame ignited. The father-in-law sees. Do you call down fire or instigate chaos? You. Just to light it faster. Him. Haste is a short path between haste and disaster. You learn that fire has its time, and you, none. You walk in a straight line. The path that leads to the plantation bends gently like an apology from the earth. It skirts the stone, respects the wind. But you, distracted or wanting to be useful, cut it off. Keep going in a straight line. The father-in-law sees. He always does. You ignored the curve. You answer, "It was just to get there faster." He says, "Too straight is the path of those who want to divide the world, and those who divide one day separate." You retrace the curve. Slow down. More humble, as if apologizing for every stone. You sneeze, just once. Loud, involuntary. The dust from the straw rose up and overcame his nose. The father-in-law stops chopping wood. He stares. Was that a sign? You, without understanding, it was just a sneeze. Spirits enter through breathing, and you open the door without warning. You learn to sneeze inside, with pain, but at peace with the afterlife. You draw in the dust. While he waits, his fingers scribble on the floor. A circle, a sun, something. The father-in-law passes. Are you writing what wasn't asked for? You. It's nothing. Just a distraction. Him. Distraction with a trace is a spell in its early stages. You put it out with your foot, and keep your hands busy, even when the body doesn't ask for it. You ask if you can rest. It's been a long day. You're carrying bales, moving hay, cleaning cattle. Then, without daring too much, you ask, "Can I sit down for a moment?" The father-in-law looks up. Do you need permission to weaken? You. It was only polite. So, you've already failed twice. You're still standing. His legs were shaking, and the lesson in the stomach. You cleaned something that nobody asked for. The shed was covered in webs. You saw it, took a rag, cleaned it up. A few minutes later, his father-in-law walks in. Did you clean up what wasn't yours? You. I just thought it would be useful. Him. Usefulness out of order is the first step towards disorganization. You return the dirt, or try, with bits of dust put back where they were. You say a proverb from your homeland. During lunch, he comments, "As my grandfather used to say, a covered pot doesn't burn beans." A discreet smile. The father-in-law chokes slightly. Are you teaching your sayings here? You. It was just a sentence. Him. A phrase that survives takes root, and other people's roots take the place of ours. You promise never again to name anyone who didn't die there. You hug your wife in front of the others. She spilled flour. You laughed, moved closer, hugged her lightly. The father-in-law stopped chewing. Did you mark territory or declare your desire? You. I just wanted to comfort you. Public comfort becomes a spectacle, and spectacle calls for judgment. You walk away, and starts to love in silence, with hands on their own legs. You bake bread with a new recipe. All that's changed is the size of the water. It became lighter, softer. Everyone liked it. The father-in-law ate and then asked, "Did you make that up?" You. It was a test. Him. Those who test without permission will one day replace the master. You return to the previous recipe, with the hardest bread, but the soul is more secure. You notice another woman's dress. She was wearing an unusual blue fabric. You looked. You just looked. The father-in-law notices. Have you measured with your eyes what is not yours? You. I just thought it was pretty. Beauty is a trap. To look too much is to slip with your eyes. You start looking at the ground or the sky, but never in the middle. You laugh during Mass. It wasn't the Mass. It was the cat that fell off the altar. But the laughter came. His father-in-law overheard. Did you find the presence of the sacred funny? You. It was an accident. Laughter out of turn is the key to a curse. You hold in your laughter, and he confesses to thoughts he didn't even have. You sing to yourself, low, without words, a rhythm all your own. The father-in-law listens. Does it have lyrics? You. No, it's just melody. Melody without lyrics is a mute invitation, and a mute invitation is dangerous. You shut up, and he keeps the song somewhere between his liver and nostalgia. You talk about the sea. Someone asks where you come from. You mention the sea. The father-in-law stops. Have you seen the sea? You. Yes. The sea is liquid arrogance. Whoever talks about it, one day tries to imitate it. You never talk about plenty of water again. You change your clothes without telling them. He goes from one tunic to another, just because it got cold. The father-in-law notices. A change of clothes without an announcement is an exchange of intentions. I was just cold. Then announce the cold before you change. You narrate each layer with explanation. You blow on the porridge. It was hot. You blow on it, as anyone who doesn't want to boil inside would do. The father-in-law sees. Are you refusing the warmth given to you? Just cooling down. To chill the gift is to distrust the giver. You learn to burn with gratitude. You're distracted by the wind in the leaves. It was beautiful. The wind made the shadows dance. You smiled. His father-in-law came up behind. Do you see beauty in what doesn't belong to you? I just watched. Endless observation becomes contemplation, and contemplation is the beginning of absence. You go back to work, with the shadows following you in silence. You try to teach a child to draw. She asked. You showed me how to make a sun. His father-in-law saw the drawing. Is that sunshine? It was her. I just showed her how. To show is to mold, and molding a child that isn't yours is stealing clay. You'll never teach again, not even when they ask, not even when they beg. You ask how old someone is. During the meal, curious, he asks the old man, How old are you? The father-in-law listens. Age is sacred data. What do you want to know? Just curious. Curiosity feeds calculations, and calculations rot respect. You stop counting anything until today. You sing the name of an object. The day is still. While you're organizing the barn, you start humming the name of the shovel. Shovel, shovel, shovel. In a dull, almost childish rhythm. The father-in-law listens. Are you evoking the tool? You laugh awkwardly. It's just a silly joke. He frowns. Objects are servants. You don't sing the name of a servant. That invites them to gain a soul, and soul in iron is the beginning of the spell. You stop, and he keeps his silence like someone deactivating an enchantment. You refer to the weather as beautiful. In the morning, as you walk to the well, you let go. It's a beautiful day today. His father-in-law, who was just behind. Nice? Yes. The sky is clear, the breeze. Heaven cannot be described. It just decides. And the breeze doesn't need your opinion. You learn to describe time as a defendant, not as a friend. You collect stones and organize them by size. It was a way to pass the time, perhaps to meditate. You sort by rows, from largest to smallest. The father-in-law watches from afar. Are you setting up an altar? They're just stones. Him. Stones laid with intention become code, and code I don't understand becomes a threat. You take it apart and throw each one in a different corner, like crumbs from a dangerous loaf of bread. You stand and watch the twilight. After dinner, instead of sitting with the others, you stand and look at the end of the day. The father-in-law approaches. What exactly are you waiting for? Nothing. Just watching the sky change. Him. Change is not observed. You accept it. You lower your eyes and pretend that the sky never changes. You wipe your shoes before going inside. It was thick mud. You respectfully wipe your boots on the doorstep. The father-in-law sees. Do you think the ground here doesn't deserve your dirt? I just didn't want to get the inside dirty. Him. A dirty interior is natural. Too much cleanliness is the visitor's pride. You step on it. and he feels every footstep as an approved insult. You refuse honey. Someone offers you a piece of bread with honey. You politely decline. I'm satisfied. His father-in-law observes. Did you deny sweetness? You. I'm just full. Him. Sweetness isn't about appetite. It's about welcome. Whoever denies honey denies a bond. You eat, and he swallows the jam as if it were vinegar. You move the bucket. He thought it would make more sense from the other side. A small gesture of optimization. The father-in-law arrives later, he sees. Who touched that? You. It was me. I just switched sides. Him. Side is an old decision. To move without warning is to rewrite without reading. You return the bucket, and he remembers that everything has a place there, even discomfort. You accidentally imitate an accent. Talking to the new baker, his accent changes, a little, by reflex. The father-in-law listens, in the background, as always. Have you changed your language? You. It was just a figure of speech. Him. To speak like someone else is to forget who you are. You swallow the next sentence, your accent, with your shame. You ask why the bell doesn't ring anymore. It used to chime at dusk, but today, silence. You ask, did the bell break? The father-in-law looks on, long. The bell rings when it should, and silence is the sound of what is necessary. You promise you'll never want to hear about anything that doesn't sound like you. You lick your finger to turn the page. It was an old book, full of dust. You wet your finger out of habit. The father-in-law sees. Did you put saliva on the sacred? You. I didn't know it was sacred. Everything that carries a letter is. You close the book, and he doesn't read anymore. Not even with your eyes. Not even with my fingers. You watch a bird for too long. He was there, on the fence. You looked at it. The animal didn't even blink. The father-in-law appears from the side. Are you waiting for him to tell you something? You. Just looking. Looking too much turns into asking. You lower your eyes, and he apologizes with the back of his head. You blow on the milk. It's hot. You blow on it. The father-in-law. Did you want to change the temperature of what was delivered to you? You. I didn't want to burn myself. Him. Burning is part of memory. You learn that pain is also seasoning. You teach the dog to give its paw. It was no big deal, just a trick. But the father-in-law sees. Do you want him to behave like a man? You. Just fun. Him. Fun that educates, dominates. And those who dominate animals soon want to dominate people. You stop, and the dog is just a dog again. Hopefully, you close your eyes while listening to the music. It was a distant lute. You close your eyes, allow yourself. The father-in-law shows up. Did you leave with the sound? You. I just felt it. Feeling is dangerous when there is no control. You keep your eyes open, even when the music begs for silence. You cover the fire before it's time. The soup was still bubbling. You put the lid on. The father-in-law. Did you stifle the heat before he explained himself? You. It was just so it wouldn't evaporate too much. Him. Evaporation is the confession of fire. Don't interrupt. You undo it, and let the fire do the talking, even when you shout. You draw in the sand with your foot, not on purpose, an unintentional circle, a crooked line. The father-in-law sees. Are you marking your territory? You. It was without thinking. Him. Marking without intent reveals hidden intent. You put it out with the other foot, and he starts walking without touching the ground. You offered to help me onto the hay cart. He was old. You hold out your hand. His father-in-law observes. Do you think he needs it? You. It was just a precaution. Precaution is arrogance in disguise. You take your hand back and hope the old man doesn't fall, or fall with dignity. You close the door very carefully, so as not to wake anyone up. The father-in-law listens. He always listens. Did you try to move without being noticed? You. I was just discreet. Too much discretion is a thief's move. You knock on the door, just right, and pray that no one wakes up angry. You lean against the wall of the chapel. Tired, you lean against the cold wall of the chapel. Not out of disrespect, just tired. His father-in-law passes by and sees. Do you stand where your knees touch? You, just to rest. Him. Impure rest contaminates what is sacred. You walk away, and he feels he'll never have the right to touch anything again. You observe the work of others. The men lift logs. You watch in silence, fascinated by their strength. The father-in-law notices. Are you admiring or measuring? You. Just watching. Too much observation becomes judgment, and judgment without authority becomes conspiracy. You look away, and pretend that other people's efforts don't move you. You pass the same place twice. The mud didn't come out properly. You go back with the broom. The father-in-law notices. Why did you come back? You. One corner was missing. Him. To review is to doubt the first gesture, and to doubt yourself is to lose yourself. You're not coming back. Not even to clean, not even to confirm it. You cover your head with a cloth. Strong sun. You improvise a shade with the cloth. The father-in-law sees. Do you hide the crown of your skull out of shame? You. I just protected myself from the heat. Him. Whoever fears the sun, one day denies the day. You keep the fabric, and he feels the burn as a just penance. You blow dust off a stool. Before you sit down, you blow. A light cloud of dust rises. The father-in-law sees. Did you find what the weather prepared dirty? You. It was reflex. Him. A reflection that distances the past erases history. You sit in the dust, and let it settle in you too. You're carrying two things at the same time. Saving travel, you balance buckets and firewood. The father-in-law sees. Are you carrying more than you were asked to? You. I just optimized time. Optimization is rebellion disguised as efficiency. You share the load and bend the road with contrite steps. You praise the morning light. You say, almost to yourself, it's clear today, it almost looks new. The father-in-law. New? You. Yes. Brilliant. Glitter is a trap for the eyes, and enchanted eyes forget their shadow. You start to see the day as it really is. Commitment in the form of clarity. You cross your arms while you wait. Cold, patience, that's it. Arms crossed, the father-in-law sees. Have you closed yourself off from the environment? You. It was the cold. Closing yourself off is the first sign of contempt. You uncross. And he opens up to his elbows, even shaking. You speak too quietly. In the conversation circle, you say something quietly. The father-in-law turns his face away. Did you hide what you said? You. No. It was just the tone. Low tone is sound shadow, and too much shadow becomes pitch. You learn to modulate, and always talking about the volume of guilt. You take bread before the oldest. It was a distraction. Hunger struck. The hand was faster than the hierarchy. The father-in-law notices. Do you eat before the person who gives you the food? You. I don't understand. Him. Those who eat before condemn themselves afterwards. You give the piece back, and he fasts on his own. You yawn without covering your mouth. It was long and loud. The father-in-law listens from afar. You opened your soul without warning? It was just sleep. Sleep is vulnerability. Unguarded openness is an invitation to error. You practice yawning with your teeth clenched, and it seems that you get used to tiredness. You mark a tree with a knife. It was meant to count. A small mark, a scratch. The father-in-law sees. Did you hurt the witness of time? I just wanted to remember where I left off. Memory should live in you, not in other people's trunks. You rub the cut, but the scarring is quicker. You say you're waiting for a sign. During the storm, someone asks why you don't act. You say, I'm waiting for a sign. The father-in-law listens. Do you outsource the decision? It's prudence. Too much prudence turns into paralysis. You act, and the storm teaches you something else. You step on someone else's footsteps, without meaning to. The clay is still fresh, you step on it. The father-in-law. Did you erase someone's trail? I didn't even see it. Him. He who erases the path will one day lose his way. You go around the footprints, as if they were bones. You close your eyes to smell it. It was bread. You wanted to enjoy it. You took a deep breath, eyes closed. The father-in-law notices. Did you trust your nose more than your eyesight? I only smelled the aroma. To feel too much without looking is to dream, and to dream with your eyes closed is to lose wakefulness. You can smell everything with one eye open, just in case. You wipe your ears with your finger. In the middle of the field, you do that, discreetly, but not discreet enough. The father-in-law. Do you remove from the body what has been deposited over time? Just an itch. Itching is the call, and those who don't listen, dig. You learn to let the itch go, or getting used to it. You draw a fish in the sand, without meaning to. A childhood joke. The shape appears. The father-in-law steps on it. Did you leave the symbol of what escapes? I didn't mean to. Fish on land is prophecy, and prophecy without preparation is a risk. You smooth the floor, like someone trying to cover up a mistake with sand. You sit where your father-in-law sits. You didn't know. It was just any bank. The father-in-law arrives. This bank has my invisible name. Have you seen it? No. I just sat down. Whoever sits where they shouldn't, one day wants to stay there. You get up and start asking questions before leaning on anything. You save the bread for later. Not out of distrust, just out of caution. You roll it up and keep it. The father-in-law notices. Don't you trust the next meal? That's not it, just for later. Saving today denies tomorrow. You eat. No hunger, but with discipline. You look up during a reprimand. The father-in-law was talking, an ordinary correction, like so many. But in the middle of his speech you looked up. It wasn't arrogance, it was reflex. But he stopped talking. Do you want to see where the word comes from? No. I just listened carefully. Ears listen, eyes judge. You looked, so you doubted. You lower your eyes. And he learns that listening is the act of bowing one's head. You tie your shoelace during Mass. It was an accident. The sandal loosened. You bent down to tie it. His father-in-law remarked, Did you interrupt the praise yourself? It was just so I wouldn't trip. He who interrupts the sky for his foot deserves the ground. You leave it loose. and he stumbles with pride. You smile at remembering an old game. During lunch, someone mentions stones. You remember your childhood game and smile. The father-in-law notices. What brought on the laughter? You. Just a reminder. To laugh at what has remained is to dishonor what is. You swallow your smile, as carefully as you swallow dry bread. You watch the rain pouring down on the roof. A constant drip, rhythmic. You follow the sound with your eyes. The father-in-law arrives. Are you counting the drops? You. I can only see it fall. Falling too far hypnotizes, and hypnosis is an escape from the present. You look away, and the sound continues to drop, only now heavier. You sit down before everyone else. In the barn, in the late afternoon, everyone gathers. You sit down. You were the first. The father-in-law notices. Are you resting without company? You. I was tired. Tiredness that doesn't wait turns into sovereignty. You stand up and wait for someone more tired to give you permission. You ask the name of a plant. It grew near the pigsty. It had red leaves. You ask, what do you call that one? The father-in-law replies, do you want to know how to harvest? You. No. Just knowing. Knowledge without use is distraction, and distraction leads to doubt. You start to ignore what you don't recognize. Even you. You change positions during the prayer. My knee hurts. You change sides. Subtly. The father-in-law sees. Are you uncomfortable in front of the eternal? You. Only physical pain. Pain in faith is proof. To run away from it is to refuse the bond. You hold the position, and the pain, with devotion. You invent a name for a calf. The child asks for help. You suggest, maybe Rufus? The father-in-law listens. Foreign name. You. It was spontaneous. Spontaneity is the arrogance of those who think they are creators. You let the child choose for themselves, even if she repeats Rufus on her own. You blow on the candle for a long time. It was just to put it out, but it took a while. The blow was strong. The father-in-law, did you erase or expel? You. I just blew. To blow too hard is to tell the winds that something is over. You light up again. Put it out more slowly, as if apologizing to the flame. You collect water in the wrong bucket. It was clean, just like the others. But it wasn't the bucket of water. The father-in-law notices. Do you change the purification container? You. I only took the closest one. Too close is sometimes too far. You pour in the water, and look for the right bucket, even if it's far away. You stroke the wheat as if it were hair. It was out of habit. Hands that remember another time. You run your fingers along the tips of the wheat. The father-in-law approaches. Are you trying to connect with what doesn't belong to you? You. I just enjoyed it. Appreciation is the prelude to ownership. You step back and let the wheat bend only with the wind. You say you had a strange dream. Next to the stove, while they wait for the bread to bake, you comment. I dreamt of someone pulling me by the hand. The father-in-law looks up. Anyone? You. I didn't see the face. Faceless dreams call nameless shapes, and what has no name commands. You don't count dreams anymore, not even the good ones. You cough while reading the passage. It wasn't deliberate. A choke, perhaps. The father-in-law slowly closes the book. Did the text attack you? You. It was just my throat. A throat that fails to speak is a body that disrespects. You hold in your cough, with faith. You thank the field. After planting, you say, lightly, Thank you, Earth. His father-in-law, who was coming up behind, do you think the Earth hears you? You. It was just expression. Too much expression becomes invocation. You keep the thanks, and let the field receive nothing but sweat. You squeeze a stranger's hand tightly. Firm, respectful. His father-in-law observes. Did you want to show dominance? You. It's my way of saying hello. A way that imposes becomes a measure, and nobody called you to measure. You start greeting with light touches, almost apologies. You wave at a child from afar. She smiles. You smile back. The father-in-law sees. Are you creating links without authorization? You. I was just nice. Too much sympathy sweetens the poison. You pretend not to see, even when she calls your name. You rearrange the tools. Not out of rebellion, out of logic. It was more efficient. The father-in-law arrives. Did you touch the altar at work? You. It's more practical this way. Practicality is the enemy of ritual. You give it all back, in the order you don't understand. You tell a funny story. Everyone laughed. For a moment, the atmosphere was light. The father-in-law, after laughing, did you lead the laughter? You. I only shared something from the past. A past that entertains does not teach, and without teaching, laughter is a waste. You return to silence, and observe how humor evaporates like alcohol in the sun. You watch the flame of the lamp for too long. During supper, the flame danced. That's all it was. A light, hypnotic dance. You looked at it. For too long. His father-in-law noticed. Are you talking to the fire? You. Just seeing how it moves. Him. Fire that enchants burns. And he who observes too much offers himself. You look away, and you feel that a part of you has stayed there. Stepping on hot coals with your eyes. You fold the tablecloth symmetrically. Nobody asked. It was an automatic gesture. You fold it in 4, then align the ends. The father-in-law sees. Do you want to embellish what has already fulfilled its function? You. Just to keep it straight. Him. Excessive order is a sign of vanity, and vanity corrupts the cloth. You knead it lightly, to make it look sloppy, even if it's respect. You snap your fingers. Tension in the bones. A single snap. Discreet. A physical relief. The father-in-law listens. Did you break the stillness with the slap of war? You. It was the finger. Him. Anyone who snaps without reason declares an aggressive presence. You keep your fingers, like weapons that shouldn't be drawn. You praise the clay. After the rain, the path turned to thick mud. You comment. The smell of clay. It reminds me of home. The father-in-law stops walking. Do you romanticize dirt? You. It's just memory. A good memory of what is bad is the seed of poisonous nostalgia. You learn to stand on your own 2 feet, and without affection. You're startled by thunder. It was strong. The sky tore inside. Your body reacted. You shrank. His father-in-law beside him remained motionless. Are you afraid of what you warn? You. It was instinct. Instinct that flees weakens the flesh. You pretend you didn't hear, even if the sky falls in on you. You spread honey on bread with the wrong knife. It was a spoon for that, but you used a cheese spoon. His father-in-law observes. Did you mix instruments? You. It was for practicality. Too practical turns into a functional offender. You clean the knife, and accept that roles were decided before you were born. You stand up during the reading. Everyone sits down. You're standing, discreetly propped up. It's uncomfortable, but you can stand it. The father-in-law asks, "Why doesn't pride sit down?" You, "I've got a backache." Pain that chooses a pose is a vain man's excuse. You sit down, and the pain remains, with approval. You find a feather on the way, beautiful, dark blue. You pick it up like someone who recognizes a lost gift. The father-in-law sees you holding it. Did you collect a symbol without permission? You, "It was just a shame." A feather is a bird's trace. A bird is a message. A message collected is an interception. You let go of the feather, and he hopes the bird doesn't notice. You touch an unused tool. It was leaning. You touched it, without meaning to. His father-in-law saw. Are you going to work or tease? You, "I only felt the texture." Feeling what you don't use is a poorly explained desire. You don't play anymore. Just look. With the guilt of those who stole without taking. You observe the shape of the clouds. They were beautiful, slow. They formed animals, maps, faces. You smiled. His father-in-law saw. Do you read the sky as parchment? You, "No, I just found it curious." Curious is the deviant's first name. You only look at the ground, even when the sky begs for eyes. You rearrange the hanging ropes. There was a crooked rope. You adjusted it. The father-in-law notices. Did you want to impose order on chaos? You, "I just fixed it so it wouldn't fall." Sometimes falling is destiny. To help too much is to betray the fall. You let go of the rope, and let the weight teach you. You cross your fingers as you pray. It was comfort, a childhood habit. His father-in-law observes. Do you hide your intentions inside your hand? You, "It's just my way." A way that involves a secret. You uncross, and he prays like the others, even if the spirit doesn't follow. You mention a river. At dinner, he comments that he once swam across a strong river. The father-in-law asks, "And what did you leave on the other side?" You, "Nothing, just the crossing." Crossings are liquid packs, and packs don't end dry. You only learn to talk about the paths you walk on, not those who do nothing. You whistle at a dog, just to play. He wags his tail, but his father-in-law hears the sound. Do you call the animal or test its obedience? You, "It was out of friendship." Friendship with a dog is the absence of hierarchy. You stop, and the dog, not understanding, walks away too. You place flowers on a stone. They were beautiful. You found them. You left them there. His father-in-law saw. Have you dedicated beauty to something immovable? You, "I just thought it would look nice." Beauty placed for no reason becomes a clandestine altar. You pick the flowers, and let them wither away. You bless yourself as you pass the cross. An automatic gesture, respectful, the father-in-law sees. Did you bless yourself or protect yourself? You, "It's just faith." Faith in advance is fear, and fear in the form of a gesture is superstition. You cross your arms, and keep the faith where no one can see. You sigh before starting a task. It was big. You take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. The father-in-law listens. Do you warn that you're about to fail? You, "No, just preparing the body." A body that needs advertising is a spoiled body. You start without breathing, and it ends with a taste of bronze. You rub your hands together in the cold. They were freezing. You tried to warm them up. The father-in-law sees. Do you get warm without a fire? You, "It's instinct." Instinct that defies the environment is stubbornness. You let the cold tell you who you are. You ask if there's anything you can do. The father-in-law was sitting down, sharpening a blade. You approach with good intentions. Can I help you with anything? He looks up. Do you want to work or redeem yourself? You hesitate. Work. Anyone who asks before serving has too many doubts. You step back, and he expects to be sent, as if the call cleansed the sin from the offering. You wipe the sweat off with the hem of your shirt. It was warm, a simple gesture. Dry your face, his father-in-law observes. Did you cleanse the sacred with what you wear? You. That's all I had. Those who mix skin and cloth forget that order begins with the body. You let the sweat run, and it gets mixed up with the dust. You comment that you had a fever. At the end of the day, someone asks if everything is all right. You say, I think I had a fever yesterday. The father-in-law listens. You declared yourself ill without proof? You. It was just a feeling. He who feels before he measures suffers for vanity. You never share warmth again, not even when it burns inside. You lick your finger to test the wind. In the field, with the doubt of the weather, you make the gesture. His father-in-law from a distance. Do you want to know what's not yours? You. Only the wind. The wind gives itself away, it doesn't measure up, and a tongue in the wind becomes a scattered spell. You keep the gesture, and he begins to accept management as punishment. You compliment someone else's writing. One of his father-in-law's sons writes well. You read and comment. He has a talent with words. The father-in-law approaches. Do you exalt the word of someone who is not you? You. I only recognized merit. Merit is currency, and whoever distributes it without power is counterfeiting it. You read in silence, and praising with his gaze. Very short. You stack firewood with shapes. It wasn't art, it was habit. It formed a beautiful triangle. The father-in-law sees. Are you creating a symbol or storing wood? You. I just thought it would fit better this way. Beauty in the heap denotes intent. You spread it, and he learns that fire only recognizes a mess as a tribute. You look at the sky as you walk. It was beautiful, or at least different. You walked and looked. His father-in-law crosses his path. Did you lose something up there? You. I just watched. To look up without a mission is to offer your neck. You lower your head, and he learns that the ground is the only reliable place. You say hello to someone you don't know. At the gate, a stranger walks past. You nod. A good morning. His father-in-law observes. Did you open the house to what didn't come in? You. It was just a gesture of respect. Respect for the stranger is disloyalty to the neighbor. You keep the nods, and reserve your head for the cold. You doze off, leaning against the stable. 5 minutes. The body asked. The father-in-law passes. Do you dream where the bug lives? You. I just close my eyes. Eyes that are too closed open the wrong doors. You wake up, and he learns that rest only exists with vigilance. You watch the milk rise in the pan. It formed waves, an almost magical movement. The father-in-law sees. Have you hypnotized sustenance? You. No. I just watched it grow. Growth is not to be watched. It's to be harvested. You turn your face away and let the milk come up by itself, or burn. You watch the candle drain. The wax made paths. You followed with your eyes. The father-in-law enters. Are you happy to accompany the death of the flame? You. With respect. Too much respect for the fall becomes a celebration of the loss. You blow, before it melts more than it should. You arrange stones around the fire, for security, to contain. The father-in-law sees. Do you want to surround what burns? It's just to avoid accidents. Fire that doesn't walk doesn't warn either. You remove the stones, and you feel that the fire is smiling. You ask about the origin of a saying. The old man says, "A rooster that crows out of time dies early." You ask, "Where does that come from?" The father-in-law listens. Do you doubt wisdom, or do you want to rewrite the song? Just curious. Curiosity is the traitor's lamp. You delete the question, and he listens to everything as if it were a commandment. You draw in the air with your finger. No intention, just an imaginary line, perhaps to explain something. The father-in-law sees. Did you write without paper? It was just a gesture. A nameless gesture is a loose word. A loose word calls those who hear it from afar. You keep your hands, and it allows the air to remain scratch-free. You smell a fruit before you eat it, out of habit, to know if it's good. The father-in-law sees. Did you question the gift with your nose? It wasn't mistrust. Mistrust of food is fasting from intention. You eat without knowing it, and he blames himself for the taste. You smile to yourself. Nobody spoke. Nobody did anything. But something inside you smiled. The father-in-law asks, "What made you happy for no visible reason?" I thought of something silly. Nonsense that generates laughter becomes a loophole, and gaps are doors to error. You close your face, and learn to keep what makes you happy. In the liver pocket. You draw with charcoal on the stable wall. It was a symbol of childhood, an animal, a circle with paws. The father-in-law sees. Have you spelled what has no owner? It was just a drawing. A drawing in a shelter is the signature of the invader. You erase it with your hand, but the shadow remains. You lean your forehead against the wood, tired, without thinking. You rest your forehead on the beam of the barn. The father-in-law passes. Have you offered your head to the unresponsive? It was just support. A head that bows for no reason attracts misinterpretation. And here, interpretation kills. You turn your face away, and he learns that you can only touch wood with your hands. You adjust the cape on your shoulders. Strong wind. The cape shifts. You pull it back carefully. The father-in-law notices. Are you adorning yourself in front of the village? Just covering your neck. Covering up too much hides intent. Hidden intent ferments. You drop the cover, and his neck trembles, free. You observe someone's shadow. The evening light casts beautiful shapes. You follow a shadow dancing on the fence. The father-in-law notices. Do you chase image instead of body? I didn't mean to. Whoever follows a shadow will one day lose even himself. You look at your feet and accept the concrete as truth. You hold up an unused tool. The scythe. You held it while the owner adjusted his belt. The father-in-law sees. Do you wield what is not yours? I only held it for a moment. Moments are enough to generate suspicion. You let go, and don't touch anything that already has an owner. No hope. You hear a whisper and turn your face away. There was nothing, just an impression. But you turned. You looked. His father-in-law saw the movement. Did you hear what wasn't said? I think I imagined it. Imagination that responds to silence opens the mind. You close your ears inside, and the world thanks you. You hold back your laughter when you see a chicken running. It was funny, a stumble with feathers. You held back your laughter, but you smiled. The father-in-law. Do you find disorder funny? You? It was natural. Nature that laughs becomes the clown of reason. You erase the smile, with the seriousness of someone carrying firewood. You stroke a sack of wheat. It felt soft. You ran your hand over it, as if you were touching an animal. His father-in-law saw. Do you admire sustenance as if it were affection? You. It was instinct. Instinct that exchanges use for affection creates confusion. You start treating groceries with distance, like reliable enemies. You sing the name of the village, just the name, in melody. To remember the right pronunciation, the father-in-law listens. Do you want to eternalize something that doesn't belong to you? You. It was just sound. Sound that involves a name becomes a seal, and a seal without authorization is falsehood. You shut up, and he only pronounces names when his mouth is tight. You whisper to a stone. It was a childhood game. You put your lips to the stone and said, "Are you still there?" The father-in-law sees. Have you questioned what won't answer? You. It was just a memory. Vocalized memory is a gift of voice. You swallow the memories, like invisible thorns. You bless yourself with the wrong finger. In a hurry, he used his left hand. A hurried cross. The father-in-law sees. Have you turned a sign against yourself? You. I didn't even notice. Involuntary reversals are still openings. You bless yourself again, with the right hand, in the throes of guilt. You watch an insect for too long. An ant. Very small, carrying something 10 times bigger. The father-in-law approaches. Are you trying to understand the logic of the insignificant? You. She's strong. Strength that admires the smallest forgets who is in charge. You look away and step on it, slowly. You write your name in the sand. On reflection, 1 letter, 2. The father-in-law appears. Did you sign without a recipient? You. Just kidding. Playing with a name is an invitation to confusion. You put it out with your foot and let the wind fix the rest. You make your bed with zeal. Symmetrical folds, an almost ritual touch. The father-in-law passes. Are you expecting a visit or a trial? You. I only like order. Order that demands aesthetics becomes an altar of the ego. You mess up the pillow and sleep less well. You ask the time. There was no watch, but you ask. It must be close to noon by now. The father-in-law listens. Do you want to know or control? You. Just curious. Those who measure time try to fit into it, and time doesn't like cages. You accept that the sun is in charge, even when you hide. You try to remember a verse, an old song. You mumble half of it. The father-in-law recognizes the melody. Do you sing what you haven't finished? You. I've forgotten the rest. Broken verse is half magic, and half is the whole. You're silent, and he prays to forget even what he already knew. You stack plates with harmony. After the meal, you organize them, one by one, lined up. His father-in-law observes. Do you stack to lift or hide? You. I just tidied up. Tidying up too much is giving form to what should be dispersed. You spread out the plates, and he learns that a mess can be a defense. You sleep later than the others. I was just looking at the fire, thinking of nothing. But time passed, and you were still awake. Father-in-law wakes up early and sees you awake. Do you watch the silence to steal the night? You. I just lost sleep. Lost sleep is the soul's warning, and a soul that watches at the wrong time gives itself away. You lie down, but sleep doesn't come. He also fears the trial. You think before you answer. They ask if you've seen the axe. You think. You remember. You answer. Yes, near the well. The father-in-law listens. Did you doubt the memory or the commitment? You. I wanted to give the right answer. He who thinks too much before he speaks lies to himself. You learn to respond quickly and to err with conviction. You write something with your finger in the air. No one can see. Only you. A gesture of remembrance. The letter of a name. The father-in-law sees. Do you call the invisible to witness your thoughts? You. It was just a line. A line without paper becomes a signature from beyond. You stop and let the memory rot inside. You ask when the harvest is over. 3 days of work. You ask, do you think we'll finish tomorrow? The father-in-law looks on. Did you get tired before you finished? You. It was just planning. To plan for the end is to doubt the effort. You work, no future, just a task. You drop a crumb. It was dry bread. It broke in my hand. It fell. His father-in-law saw. Did you spill the beans? You. I didn't mean to. An accident with bread is an excuse with God. You collect and eat with reverence. You find a flower among the stones, colorful, stubborn. You crouch down, touch it. The father-in-law sees. Are you looking for beauty in a hostile place? You. I just found it curious. Curiosity about the exception turns into a desire for the exception. You walk again, as if the flower never existed. You try to teach someone something. A younger boy making mistakes with a hoe. You show him how. His father-in-law observes. Do you broadcast that you weren't asked? You. It was just to help. Help without demand is vanity with a veneer of kindness. You keep quiet, and let each mistake create its own pain. You look at an ancient tomb. No one visits. The cracked stone. You read the name. The father-in-law shows up. Do you want to learn from the dead or negotiate with them? You. I just looked. To look too much is to call, and whoever calls, one day hears. You look away, and let oblivion complete the tombstone. You chew slowly. Hot food. Cautious mouth. Chewing time is long. His father-in-law observes. Are you suspicious of the food? You. I'm just eating slowly. Too much calm at a time of sustenance is useless meditation. You swallow, quickly, in a hurry to obey. You laugh at an old memory. It was her grandmother, a pillow story. You laugh alone, lightly. The father-in-law looks on. Do you find what's dead funny? You. It was just nostalgia. Longing that laughs becomes mockery. You swallow your laughter, and she feels that her grandmother has been left outside. You ask about the fate of the dry well. Shall we dig another? The father-in-law turns. Do you want to replace what you still hold in memory? You? He dried up. Dryness is also an inheritance that weighs, and weight is carried. You don't dig. He just walks around, like visiting a damp tomb. You cover a candle with your hand. The wind threatened. You protect the flame. The father-in-law sees. Are you afraid the power will go out? You. I just wanted to help. Help in the light is arrogance against the night. You pull your hand back and let it burn or put it out as you decide. And then you go to sleep, with your knees bent, not too much, staring at the ceiling, but not straight on because straight on offends. You breathe lightly, noiselessly, without causing air. without turning the night into a narrative. Because everything, absolutely everything, can be misinterpreted, and all the reasons why your father-in-law would have killed you in the Middle Ages. Perhaps the biggest is this: you tried to be you, before you understood who he wanted you to be. Then go to sleep. Sleep carefully. Sleep without attracting attention. Because even sleep in this house, he has ears.